Hello folks, and welcome as ever to Our Game with myself, Shane Stapleton, joined by Michael Verney. We're here every Thursday, we're here every Monday. We never really leave it, Michael. We're always stuck into the LGA, aren't we?
Omnipresent.
Yeah, and we're getting abused for putting the odd non-GA thing up on the X profile, if you want, on Twitter. By God, a lot of people seem to be loving it, but the odd person cribbing. Sure, like sport is sport. People who are into GA tend to be into other sports. Sure, why wouldn't we have a nibble at that too?
Sport is sport, hurling is hurling. Cork or Cork, tip or tip.
Tis true for you. Hey, we've some amount of stuff coming on the show again today. It feels like I'm always saying that, but it is kind of the truth. Like, so we're going to have one of my old teammates. Oh, he seems to be coming in here talking about the Antrim finals up and down the country. Let's start off with the big ignorant head of Kean Waldren, my old teammate from Tula, who's up there masquerading as a decent quality hurler up in Antrim. How things, Kean?
Good. You know all about masquerading as any kind of a hurler.
Yeah, that's true. For people who don't know, Kean Waldren, he'd be the brother of Nisha Waldren, the less interesting brother of Nisha Waldren.
You have something in common then, boys, in fairness to you. You're the less interesting brother.
Jesus, I didn't expect us to both get turned on there, Kean.
What is that you're wearing? What is that?
Well, you know what? I ordered a golf t-shirt online. I hate the stuff, but I didn't zoom in on it. And when you zoom in on it here, you can see there's nothing but skulls all over it. I said I'd put it on just for you. We'll go down reception up there in the north. It's a big change up. Is the hurling very different to what we experienced in Dublin there for the 10 or 12 years you were playing?
It is different. Like Dublin club hurling is very attritional. Like it's very, very physical, you know, and there's a lot of in Antrim, it's not as attritional, but like the scores would be a lot higher. Like the scores in the games would always be a lot higher. Like, you know the way now in Dublin, everybody pretty much packs the middle third, 2-man full forward line. Like that does happen, but not to the same extent. And I think as well in Antrim, it's funny, it's like the pitches are probably a bit bigger. So it doesn't allow for, like our pitch at Ballycastle is massive. It doesn't allow for, whereas Parnell is like, it allows you to pack in, and it is very attritional. Probably not as physical as Dublin, but then I don't know, is there a lot of county championships as physical as Dublin? Because I always felt when we came out, it was one of the advantages that we had over a lot of teams. We were a lot more physical than them. But like, you know, the scoring is way higher. Like the scoring is a lot higher, and I don't really know why that is, but it is a lot higher. One thing is, like, the crowds are so much bigger. Like, they're so much bigger. Like, we could get a league game, and you know, it would probably get as much as we got in the championship match with Coola. Like, and it's it makes it great. Like, but at the same time, you know, the way a league game in Dublin, you could kind of not post it in, but you didn't have to be going at 100%. Where if you're not going at 100%, well, no. You always had to be going at 100%, I suppose, to be any use to anyone. So if you're not going, you'll hear about it like pretty quickly. But it is very enjoyable, I have to say. It's really, really enjoyable, just because of the rivalries, because of the crowds, because of everything. And it's real hurling. Like, I'm in Ballycastle, it's real hurling country. Like, we got knocked out when Saturday week ago, and just first kind of night out afterwards, and all anybody wanted to talk about in the pub was hurling. Like, and I wouldn't even know a lot of people that well, but everybody kind of feels like they know you, and they come up and chat, and it's hurling is number one. It was great for me, like, moving up to a new town, and straight away you were kind of part of the town, just because you were playing hurling, and people knew you and people got to know you, and yeah. But it's been very enjoyable since I've come up. Now, 2 weekends ago wasn't as enjoyable, obviously, but we'll work on that.
Kean, just on the final this weekend, I think it's actually hard to appreciate just how many people are at these games until you're actually up there. So a video panned around at pitch level of the Loughgiel Dunloy game. Like, there'll be people from Armagh, down, Derry. Like, it'll be absolutely thronged up in Corrigan on Sunday for the final.
It'll be mobbed. Now, if the game was in Ballycastle, you probably would get a bigger crowd because it's in North Antrim. Like, one thing people have to realise is how big geographically Antrim is. Like, we're an hour and 10 minutes from Belfast. And that might take, let's say, the neutrals from Cushandall, ourselves, maybe Dunloy, that might take away. But everybody around Belfast will go. Everybody, let's say in Derry, like I know a couple, I'm teaching here in Dungiven, they will go. It will be thronged. Like, you see the Ulster Club final, it is packed. Like, it was in Owenbeg a couple of years ago, Dunloy and Slaughtneil. You couldn't get near it. Like, I don't think people realise, let's say everybody who likes hurling, loves hurling in Ulster, will go to the Ulster Club final, will probably go to this one too. See, the semi-final in Ballycastle, Loughgiel and Dunloy. Like, Loughgiel bring a boisterous, loud crowd and a big crowd as well. And they were ready. It was funny because I remember after 2 or 3 minutes watching it, and I was like, God, this Loughgiel crowd are ready to support a team here that are going to go out and do the business. But like, it is a big crowd, and they bring air horns and flags, and it's great. It's really great to play in. And there'll be a big crowd in Corrigan on Sunday.
What was I going to ask you?
I'll come in quickly there. You're in Dungiven. Any sign of Brawley? And the great Jeffrey Donegal?
No, well, actually, the great Liam Hinfey passed away 2 weeks ago. So I did see one of the Brawley's Crunchies. He's involved with the St. Mary's hurling team here. So I saw him, and it's a massive occasion for Dungiven, and a great hurling man passed away. So everybody who was anybody in Ulster hurling was at the funeral, and I'm in Dungiven in the Gael School here in Dungiven, and we are, we're going well. We're getting the hurling up and running here, and we're going well. We've won a couple of championships, but no sign of Brawley yet. I haven't bumped into him on the street.
Compare and contrast the love of hurling and how much everyone's into it with, like, so you're from Freshford and Kilkenny, obviously via Coola, but how insanely into it are they in Antrim compared with down home? Even the schools, is it just a load of hurleys lined up against the wall as you come into school?
It would be like, see the likes of CPC, St. Louis, St. Killian's there in Antrim, in North Antrim. Yeah, it is like this is our first year up in the A under 15, and we went up to play them, and like, it is a big deal to be on those teams, kind of like what Kieran's is. I think just because of, like, North Antrim is mainly, is mostly hurling, and except Dunloy obviously this year did what they did, but like, it's so when you grow up in Kilkenny, it's insane. And it was only when I got to Dublin that I realised it was insane. But this is on another kind of level. Like, I have a couple of good stories just on, like, first championship match I really played was against Kerry, and they were our local rivals, and I was just in the shop, I was getting diesel, and I got a tap on the shoulder, and this man said, you're that Kilkenny boy that's playing with the town. And I said, yeah. And he just kind of looked at me deadpan. He says, you better not lose on Sunday, because you won't be welcome back in the town, like, for a month if you don't win. And I laughed, and he went, it's no laughing matter. And he walked out, and your one behind the counter said, he didn't even pay for his diesel. Like, he just was so angry that the thought that we might lose to Kerry, like, in the championship. So it is, and like, the whole town, let's say Bally, because I can only talk about Ballycastle, but like Cushandall and Dunloy and Loughgiel is all the same. And do you know the one thing that is how big these clubs are? Like, obviously they've done really well in history, like Loughgiel have 2 All-Irelands and all, but they are big clubs. Like, it's not just a rural parish who have done really well or anything. They are like big clubs who, are, everybody in the town or in wherever you are, that's what the place is aimed for. And even like, we kind of did better this year than we had been doing in the last whatever years, and there was a buzz in the town. You could feel it, like, people were talking about it running up to the semi-final. It's insane. It's kind of Kilkenny by 2, kind of like, if you know what I mean. Like, it's now, the only difference is that there isn't a city like Kilkenny City where the population base would be there. It's more like, we have Ballycastle, of course, and all, but yeah, but it is. I felt very much at home. Ballycastle's kind of like Kilkenny by the sea, so I felt very much at home in the whole way of this. You know, I like to talk about hurling, Shane, so I've been.
But hurling is hurling, Kean.
Hurling is hurling, and winning is winning.
How do you think Cushandall? Actually, first off, before we get into the matchup, Cushandall, Loughgiel, how much would these two teams have a bit of a distaste for each other?
Well, I think it's fair to say all the teams in North Antrim have a distaste for one another. So, they would have a distaste for one another. I would say Cushandall, if they were being coldly honest, would have loved another crack at Dunloy. They would have loved another crack at Dunloy. But now that Loughgiel are there's nothing that will, like, the Cushandall would love the fact, like, Loughgiel have won 4 minors in a row, or probably going for 5 in a row. There's nothing Cushandall would love more than just kind of saying, lads, it's not your time yet. This is our time. We're the men here. You know, that kind of thing. So, like, the rivalry is massive because the 4 Ballycastle, we haven't won since '86, but so those 3 clubs have basically shared it between themselves now for a long time, and the Belfast clubs have been very close to making a breakthrough, but no one has for a while. So yeah, it's been shared between the 3 of them, and the rivalries are very, very big.
I'll try and catch Verney on the hop here. Who's the last team outside of that trio to win the Antrim title, and when?
Me, I'd say it's O'Donovan Rossa.
Yes,
but I couldn't tell you. Early 90s, late 80s.
Did they win the All Ireland that year?
No, definitely not in 04 anyway.
They won in 04. Sorry, no, I thought they won one. I think the early 80s. Did they?
Beaten in did they win All Ireland?
Or were they beaten in one? I thought they
beaten in a final. I think, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm checking here. No, I don't think they got to an All Ireland final. They intermediate All Ireland Championship. They won. All right.
Who did Buffers Alley beat in the final in when Dorn won? I thought that might have been O'Donovan Rossa. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think it was, and I think they beat 4 Roads of Roscommon in the semi-final. So talk about a favourable kind of route to an All Ireland. Should we know?
Well, hey, listen, Shano. When Offaly won in '81, we beat Laois, Wexford, and Galway to win All Ireland. So, not a bad All Ireland to win now.
You're not beating those teams these days. King, so what are the big things heading into this final? So of these 2 teams, who did you play in championship this year?
We played both. We were actually in both. We were all in the same group, so we played both of them. Yeah.
What's it like playing both of these teams? Are they different? Like Cushandall have a younger team.
No, Loughgiel would have a younger team. They are very different. Like Cushandall physically are very, very strong. Like their backs, Cushandall's, it's probably a case of that. Like Cushandall's backs are very strong, and Loughgiel's strength is probably their forwards. So it is like, I can't explain to you the physics. Like, we played Cushandall in August, late August in the championship, and I actually in my head I was like, that's me done now. Just the pace and the power and the physicality, because you couldn't get near them, and their backs are so strong, led by Owen Campbell at 6. Like he is. The last day we played them, the last day in sludge, the ground was just, and he was just powering through and clipping points against the wind from 50 yards after running 30 yards with the ball. Like, this kind of stuff. He's a real, when you play players and they have this inter-county strength, and he's a real epitome of that. And then you have Paddy and Martin Burke there in the full back line, so they're real shut down full back line. Liam Gillen's there as well, and like Scott Walsh as well. Like, they're Cushandall's launch pad is their half back line, and if you are not careful, they will run you back the other end of the field and will score on you. And then, of course, they've Neil McManus up front and Joseph McLaughlin. Like, Joseph McLaughlin, I think he's 17 or 18, but he doesn't look like he's 17 or 18. Like, he looks like a man, like, and he plays that way too. He scored 3-1 against us, or maybe am I giving him this service? He might have scored more against us in the semi-final. But for a young fella, like, he can take the physical stuff. He also was calm in front of goal. Like, he finished the 3 goals really well. Like, we've a really, really good goalkeeper. Ryan McGarry played in goal for Antrim for years, and he finished them really well. Like, do you know the way a calm kind of a finish, instead of just blasting it, like you might accept a young fella, but just blast it at him. So that's where their strength are. Whereas Loughgiel, it's their forwards are the strength. Now, they've good backs, like, and all able to hurl, good hurlers. but it's their forwards really are the strength, led by James McNaughton. Again, funny, you play against McNaughton, you realise the level inter-county hurling is at. Like, he just runs away from people, big and strong and good in the air. And they will need a big game for him. So the battle between him and Owen Campbell, if Loughgiel allow that to happen, will be very, very interesting. I think their midfield against Dunloy really played really well. They both of them, names are beginning to escape me here, but the two of them in midfield, Ryan McKee and Dan McCluskey played really well against Dunloy, and their full forward line, Paul Boyle scoring 1-3, like, it's going to be very interesting, because in the last game Cushandall shut them down effectively. So are they going to be, if that happens again, Loughgiel will be in trouble.
Yeah, and I have an image here of you playing against Cushandall as well.
Well, now,
flying through the air, Kean,
that's me
12?
flying through the air. That's around then I was kind of thinking, that's me finished now for the but like, if we're going to get into images of us hurling, neither of us is going to win that.
I have a grand little video of Shane all getting caught in the air in the All Ireland Club final replay. We can bring that up again if we want
can bring that one up. Actually, lately they put on the 2015. There's this fella on YouTube and he puts up all the matches. They put on the 2015 county final, and just after half time you feature heavily.
Yeah, I had a ropey start to it. Thought I'd be all right otherwise, but
you did. It's worth going and watching for anybody that wants. Just immediately after half time, it's worth going and watching.
So who do you think will win this game, Cushandall, Loughgiel?
I think Cushandall will just have too much power in the end. I think Loughgiel have done brilliantly to beat Dunloy, and it's funny, right from the first 10 minutes of that game you felt, Loughgiel are going well here, and the forwards were flying, and they were holding. They held Dunloy really well in the backs, which is something that you would have been worried about had you been a Loughgiel supporter, like where they were going to be able to hold Dunloy. But I just think that Scott Walsh, Owen Campbell, Paddy Burke, and then, of course, like, we went through all this, we haven't mentioned Neil McManus, which is a bit, like, he scored 4-9 the last day. So I just think that they eventually will hunt them out. And also, like, Cushandall's half forward line work really hard, work back, physically tackle really hard. So I just think in the end, as well as that, I think Cushandall are ready to win one. They've been the closest to Dunloy in the last few years, and I just think they're ready to win one, whereas Loughgiel are still a bit young. Now, they might totally shock me that it might just be a learning experience. I think that old thing of you have to lose one to win one. For a lot of the Cushandall lads, this is like a routine experience of going to a county final, whereas with Loughgiel, some of them, it's their first day out, and like, when it's your first day out in a county final, it's not like, it's especially when you play a seasoned team like this, it's very difficult because everything to you is new, and like, even like, there will be, all the pageantry will be there with an Antrim county final.
Like what?
And like the band and all, like they'll be walking around the field beforehand, and like the anthem and all, like all that. I'll tell you one thing, they won't be playing Zombie either. I was just about to say that. but like, you know, but all that is something to deal with, and like even small things like during the week, the flags going up around Loughgiel, the flags going up, like that does take, mentally, it does take you a while. Like, I remember Coola in 2012, and even we played Freshford in 2007, played an intermediate final, our first final since 93, and then Coola in 2012. Like, you remember that shit, like the difference between 2012 and 2015, where it was all on the match. And you can say, like, I'm sure we all said in 2012 it's all on the match, but in our heads, like, even the parade and everything,
we played the occasion big time.
Yeah, and like, that wasn't, it's not like the management's fault or anything. It's just, it seeps into your head, like, and so that's something that I think Cushandall will have over Loughgiel. But then there is an arrogance with Loughgiel. You know, they've won 2 Club All-Irelands, and this is their birthright. This is what these lads were brought up to do, like, you know, so there is that arrogance. This mightn't bother them at all, like. So
Verney has that as well in Bird. There's a fierce arrogance. By the way, I'm only messing about Ireland's call in case it's to wind up Kean, who was born in the north.
No. You made the comment now. You can accept the Twitter comeback, or the X, whatever it is these days. So
Joe Butler says, is it hurls or hurlers or hurleys, he should say, in Antrim?
Oh, I don't know. Hurls, I think.
That's the job.
Yeah.
Hurleys,
Well, I'll make sure it's hurls by the time I die here.
You have that much play, do you?
Hold on a second now. You say hurls, do you? Your brother says hurlies, I think.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Does he? I don't think so.
No, I think he does.
I doubt. Well, if he does, my father will have to sit down with him and have a chat about that, because that's not like, you can't be allowing that pollute in. If he is, he's playing to his audience and he's forgetting who he really is. Like,
he's thinking he's the macho man again here.
Yeah, well, like, it's a caricature.
Hey, Kean, you'd have a fair, you'd be keeping a fair eye in Kilkenny, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
Semi-finals this weekend. Brian Cody on the line with the Village coming up against Ballyhale. I just cannot see it, like, unless the Village play 10 points above themselves, or 10 points above what I've seen so far this year. Yeah. Is there any hope of an upset here? Because Ballyhale got over that kind of big banana skin of the quarter-final against the Borough. Yeah. Any chance of an upset in this game?
Yeah. Well, there is always, because it's the Village. Again, I was saying about Loughgiel's arrogance. Like the Village have that too, and rightly so. Like, because they have won and all, and so there is always that chance. Like, I mean, what year was it? The COVID one? Like, I wouldn't have given them much of a chance that year against Ballyhale, and they probably should have won that game. Now, like, Ballycallan, in the Ballycallan game, it wouldn't have offered you a lot of encouragement, but, like, you've Brian Cody on the line, you are the Village, like, they still will feel that they have a chance. They will feel always that they have a chance going in against Ballyhale. But that Ballyhale-Dixborough game, what a game that was. Like, you hear people talk about the split season and advertisement for hurling. Well, if you sat down and watched that, that's an advertisement for hurling, and that's what the split season is about. And funnily, up here, like, because we're so far away from Dublin, and, like, not even if you're far away from Dublin, it costs money to go to Dublin these days. Like, the kids around Ballycastle, Loughgiel, Cushandall and all, like, the split season is brilliant for them, because they're at championship matches nearly every second week, big games and that. And it's the same in Kilkenny, like, when the club season takes over. So, like, that advertisement last week was an absolutely brilliant, like, two real top high level teams going at it. And it was a really, really good game. Like, the Borough are a very, very good team. Like, like, they'd walk the Tipperary Championship, for instance. Like.
There you go.
You've been waiting to sow that.
I have been waiting. Well, listen, you're only going on results, like, Well,
so, like, how many Kilkenny teams have done well outside of the Kilkenny Championship in recent times?
Well, we beat the last three that weren't Ballyhale, so that's, like, they lost to us, like, who won the All-Ireland to 2 years.
Now you're sounding arrogant.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, they came up against a good team. Like, listen, if you go by results, Dixborough pushed Ballyhale to the pin in their collar. Ballyhale are the club All-Ireland champions, who beat Ballygunner, who beat the Tip champions by 25 points. So, maybe
in extra time there not so long ago.
Yeah, that's true. Rhinos are a very good team.
Yeah. Everyone's a good team except Tipperary teams, according to you.
No, I'm just challenging your narrative. I don't
have a narrative.
You do, of course.
What about the other semi-final, O'Loughlin Gaels, who Verney thinks will win the county championship against Bennett's Bridge, who've been, like, Bennett's Bridge have been scoring goals for fun lately, and
they have done a lot of that. They have been. I've been really impressed. Nicky Brennan was on with you a couple of weeks ago, and he tipped them, and I kind of was like, that's.
God, and we've lost him.
Kylcha, he's lost. I'd say he had an incoming call now somehow.
I'd say somehow people up in Antrim heard themselves being called arrogant across the board, and someone came from him eventually. But like, just even to flesh out that point in Bennett's Bridge, even last week against the Glenmore team, who I think had beaten them in the league stages of the championship, they went ahead and put on 3-14. And wasn't Liam Blanchfield had scored 4 goals against, was it Tullerone, if memory serves me correct? Like, if you've got a team that can score goals, you always got a chance.
Big time. I think the worry from a Bridge point of view is, like, who can handle Liam Blanchfield at club level in Kilkenny? Not many, but I'd be confident enough to say that Hugh Lawler probably can if they come up against him. Like, Hugh Lawler is made for Liam Blanchfield. He's probably could be an inch taller than him. He's probably maybe a few kg lighter, but he's an octopus in around there. He's the perfect man to probably pick him up at the edge of the square. Like, if Lawler wins that duel, that expected duel, that's 3 or 4 points in O'Loughlin's favour, you'd have to say. The thing about O'Loughlin's is real strong backs, obviously, with Mikey Butler at 2, Lawler at 3, Deegan at 6, even Conor Heary, who's a defensive type player, playing up in the half-hour line. But you're wondering, the one worry is where the score is going to come from, maybe outside of Mark Bergen, maybe Owen Wall as well. They don't have maybe the same firepower as a Ballyhale, but they can shut you down fairly good at the back. And if they're able to shut you down and keep a game tight, they'll be hard beaten. And I think Lawler probably will have the measure of Liam Blanchfield at the weekend. And even, it's not just Lawler having the measure of Liam Blanchfield. David's up centre forward, I think, as well. Like, he'll be picking up Paddy Deegan, and even with Sean Morrissey and a few other good forwards kind of lightering around there. You have Mikey Butler to pick up. Like, you have 3 really, really good defenders to take their 3 best forwards. And even with, if a ball is coming in on top of Liam Blanchfield and Hugh Lawler, you have Mikey Butler probably edging towards that side as well, helping out. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. I just think that'll be the difference. I just think Lawler will probably be able for Blanchfield, and I'm not sure if they're going to get enough scores outside of him. If Blanchfield goes to town, Bennett's Bridge win. That's kind of it. But I just don't see that happening this weekend.
Yeah, well, I think it's very interesting when you look at the scoring that Bennett's Bridge have done in the last 2 games. They've scored just 26 points between 2 games, so averaging 13 points a game. That'll just tell you that the goals that they've been scoring, which is 8 in 2 games, they've been absolutely crucial to them getting through. Because, Glenmore scored 17. To be fair, they shut down Tullerone nicely as well, 3-10. But they're going to have to score 3 goals really to win this game, aren't they?
I think so, yeah. I think that's the cut and trust of it, really. And if they do, they'll win. But I see them maybe with something like a 116, maybe, or something like that. And O'Loughlin's maybe 118, 119, maybe something like that. But that's provided Mark Bergen and Owen Wall perform up front. I think Nicky said Owen Wall plays a bit of soccer with Waterford. I don't know if they're called Waterford FC or Waterford United now as well, but he's back, obviously. He's back hurling at the minute. And I just think O'Loughlin's will get the job done. And I think the Village will produce a better performance than we've seen so far this year. And obviously they drew with them when they played in the group stages, which maybe we're forgetting, and they were 9 up at one stage. Kean Kenny's going to be really touch and go. He had something on his hand. I think he had a broken finger, a couple of broken fingers. Like, if he is back, he's going to be fairly ginger. I think he actually got surgery on the hand. He's not going to be himself, I'd say, if he gets back. But if he is able to contribute a couple of scores or something like that, they're going to need every one of them. I do expect the Village to play above what we've seen, but I'd probably Ballyhale by maybe 5 or 6 in the wind-up, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the matchups here, like Liam Blanchfield against Lawler. Kean, we have you back there. We're just talking about some of the matchups before we let you go, because you're obviously back you're in school there. But Liam Blanchfield against Hugh Lawler looks a potential matchup. Sean Morrissey against maybe Mikey Butler. I don't know, maybe Morrissey could move out to the half line and, look for scores there. Then David Blanchfield, I think he's been brilliant. And Kevin Blanchfield, another big player as well. So there's some tasty matchups there. Oh, you're on mute. You're going to have to unmute yourself there, Kean.
There, that better? Yeah, sorry. And even Kieran Brennan seems to have come back into a bit of form there in the last couple of weeks as well. So, but it's going to be very, very interesting. Like, Blanchfield looks like a totally refreshed new player, doesn't he? Since he's come back from Australia, he looks refreshed, which some lads just need that. And the one thing Bennett's Bridge have is they have options in the forwards. And even if Liam Blanchfield was shut down, there's other lads can score for them too. So it's going to be, but that one, 2 big men going to war, edge of the square, it's going to be very, very, very interesting. And again, listen, the biggest sporting event of the weekend probably is Sunday with the hurling on. Let's be honest about it, They lose the rugby, everyone forget about it by Monday. You lose a club semi-final or a county final, nobody forgets about it in your local area until
I was only saying this to Ross King last week, Kean, and you were talking about the flags and stuff going up. There is nothing worse than the week of a county final when you're not involved and you're within 5 miles of your most hated rivals, and you're seeing flags and you're seeing tires painted. It's just that horrible. There's no other kind of thing would give you that sickening feeling in your stomach like that. There's not worse.
It's desperate. I remember, was it last year when Crokes were in the Leinster hurling final, and I just came down just for a weekend with you, and obviously I was away from it. When we drove past Crokes Clubhouse and all the flags were up, I was like, oh. So it is, and there wouldn't be it is very, very difficult. It is I don't think there's too many Ballycastle people driving through Loughgiel or Cushandall in the next few weeks. I'd be hiding out.
This whole topic though of like other teams and you're not in the county final preparation. So this weekend, Offaly, it's the first final since, is it 06, Verney, since it was at St. Brendan's Park in Bern?
06,
I believe this is a picture from the game. There you are with that gorgeous helmet.
Oh, Peach, holding a jersey, actually. Nice definition in my forearms, actually.
To be fair, not bad on the thigh game either.
Yeah.
Big out, long togs. The good old days.
And a pair of socks in the shorts as well.
Pulling the micro face guard off the helmet and putting it on your Cooper. Big black bars, you can barely see through them.
No, but the only thing about the black bars is I remember when the Kilkenny face guards came in, I was the early kind of noughties, and I remember two lads getting badly bursted in the face because the bars are really, really small. Those micro bars are impenetrable. You cannot get through them.
Yeah,
you could drive a car over your helmet and the things wouldn't break.
No, you weren't getting hit with that. I don't remember saying we played Dixborough in a challenge match there, and I nearly got my nose broke through. The bar actually bent in, and it just like split me straight through it. And then about 3 weeks later, I got hit with a slitter in the forehead. Same thing, bent the bar back in. That was it. That's the end of that. So I went to the new Cooper.
To be fair to Kean, he's very hardy. Now, there was a run of him being taken away by ambulance 3 years in a row, but other than that, fierce hardy.
There was. It wasn't 3 years, quite 3 years in a row. But look, listen, when you're small enough as I am, that's going to happen to you.
Right, you have to get back to school now before you come up with any more insults for me. I better let you go.
Do you know Shane never had the black bars in the helmet?
Never.
Do you know why?
Well,
the old snout would be coming out, banging off it, so you couldn't have it that close to him.
Right, good luck.
Good luck. See ya.
Take it.
Right, yeah, that lad will be on WhatsApp now. He'll be humming on WhatsApp now for the next fight. Did we talk about the matchups in the Ballyhale Shamrocks James Stephens game? Like Luke Scanlon, he often wears a midfielder number, but he'll probably be in the half forward line. And is Richie Reid going to pick him up, or is it going to be a case that someone else will and Richie will sweep? And then, who tags Adrian Mullen, Owen Cody, TJ?
Yeah, well, I think you can tag maybe one of them, but I don't know if they have the players to tag the rest of them, to be honest with you. Scanlon will try and float into that space, I'd imagine, in front of the half back line and try and get a bit of joy there like he normally does. Richie Reid, I don't see him pushing up. See maybe Paddy Mullen maybe sitting back into that space. And although Paddy Mullen got sent off the last day, crucially he's available again. As I said to you on the show on Monday, I don't think they can afford to be missing anybody else. I don't think Colin Fennelly's going to start at the weekend. From what I saw, it'll be fairly maybe he will. It'll be a fairly miraculous recovery if he does, and taking in the flying back to Dubai and then flying home again. It'll be a fair effort if he does play. Niall Brazel plays 6 for the Village. He's not necessarily a marker. Is he going to follow TJ? I find it hard to see that he will. He's not that. He doesn't seem to me that type of player. He's more of a playmaker and very good at sitting into that pocket and getting on a lot of balls. So I'm just not sure if they might be able to pick up one or two of them. But when you look at Cody, Mullen, TJ, they might be able to maybe keep one of them quiet. But I don't know if they definitely want. I'd say 2 out of 3 will do fairly well.
You've seen a lot of James Stephens over the last few years. Is it fair to say that finding a very obvious number 6 seems to be a challenge? Because I'm just thinking of players who definitely don't traditionally play 6. And I know you can obviously be redeployed as a 6 because it's a hurler's position in a lot of ways. But I remember Owen Larkin playing there in 2019, and trying to pick up, it's grand if you're not up against TJ Reid or whatever. But, they would have had a tough day trying to get a midfielder to cover him / let Owen cover. Kean Kenny has played there now. Niall Brazel, who we would have seen previously as a forward.
They're all forwards.
And they're all really good players, right? And they've all had, for example, Owen Larkin was unmarkable at times or whatever at the other end of the pitch. But at the very end of your career, it's a tough ask. So is there obvious 6s coming through in James Stephens? Has that been a running issue?
Well, they won the minor a couple of weeks ago, so I don't know. I don't know who was playing centre back that day, but that was their first minor to win since 2011 or 12, I think. So they have a bit coming, but there doesn't seem like it's such a difficult position to fill. It's so important, so pivotal. Hurling will change, and it will continue to change over the next God knows how long. But if you have a strong half back line and you have a really good centre back who can dictate the game and control the game, that will never change. How important that is. So I'd expect, I don't know, I think Brazil will sit back and they'll try maybe get a midfielder to pick up TJ, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Ballyhale front load the full forward line again like they did the last day and go for the throat straight away. Like Dixborough could have been 2-3 to no score down after 5 minutes easily last day. Easily. Mullen had a chance to just whistle over the bar. Niall Shortall had a chance that was saved as well. They missed a couple of point chances as well. The Village need to get a decent start. It needs to be level after the first quarter or they're in big trouble, I would say. But no, I just think there's too many holes to plug. And I'm not sure if they have the calibre of personnel available to them at this minute.
Yeah, Richard Hogan says Village probably haven't had a proper six since Jackie Traumspieler adds. There seems to be a dearth of great centre-backs generally. Even in inter-county, it seems to be guys like Hannon Conlon who started their careers elsewhere. It's a very good point. Do you know when we're talking about sport changing, it might be like we've so much more hurling to talk about, but we might briefly look at some of the rules that are being trialled at Freshers football. We talked about the hurling ones, and actually we used a couple of those rules in a challenge match on Tuesday, I should say. The one with the hand pass only being, you know, if the ball's on the stick, you can hand pass it off it, or the switch hand pass. So we used.
How'd that go?
I actually kind of liked it. Now the referee said, you know, and I know the referee Tony Lamb, but he was saying like it just makes life so much more easy for him because he doesn't have to worry about lads throwing the ball and all that kind of stuff. He can switch off from that. So like there's times lads getting bottled up, you know, it probably leads to turnovers and scrums and stuff like that. But in general, I have to say I didn't think it was bad. It led to an awful lot more stick passing around the place. I'd say it'll ultimately become the little one-handed brick flick, you know, the mini ones, but it wasn't bad. The puck outs that have to go outside the near 45 before one of your own players can touch it, it just led to both teams shoving everyone outside the 45 and the ball being pucked out into numbers as we kind of had projected before. So I didn't like that. But look, as we said, you and I are going to do a video out at one of these Fresher games soon enough about it. But here's what's going to be trialled in the Freshers football. So again, it's the same thing with the kickouts. It has to go outside your own 45 for one of your own players to touch the ball. So what will happen if you don't do that? They'll cancel the kick out and you'll throw in the ball on the defender's 20-meter line in front of the scoring space. So any thoughts on that? I mean, again, teams are just all going to pile back out.
I would imagine so. That's kind of, I think they might be trialing these rules for good measures and for, you know, valid reasons, but I think teams will realise that they just need to change their focus a small bit and maybe pack back even further, and the point of the rule coming in will be kind of undermined as a result of that. Saying that, as I said to you before, I was there for the first ever official game where the midfield mark was used, and I was like, this isn't going to work, this is ridiculous, and I think it's been a brilliant rule. So you can't really, I know maybe it's not great, you think they might be a bit silly to trial some of these, but at least I suppose give it a go and see what it looks like, and try it. Don't maybe bring it into Division 1, 2 league next year and destroy a load of high profile games. Try it maybe in a league competition where yes, there's something at play, but it's not nearly as big or whatever, and you might get a decent look at whether they work or not. I don't really see that one working though, being honest.
Yeah, but again, like as I said, I think you need rules that reward pushing up. So if it was just a simple case that each team had to have 3 players inside the 20-meter line when a kick out has been taken at that end of the pitch, I think that would just open everything up, because you can go for dangerous short balls, really dangerous ones, or you're going long into far more space and maybe one-on-one situations.
I have to say, Shano, I think it's been brilliant over the last couple of years when teams put the high press on, and it's kamikaze stuff, like
brilliant.
The keeper needs to be so cool, like, and it's just like inch here, inch there, and an inch it goes to the defender and they're on the front foot and they've got men over, an inch the other way and it's a goal. I have to say, I think it's fascinating to look at, and I remember watching, and it was the best example of it. I remember it wasn't even on a kick out, actually. It was Meath and Kerry in the ladies football All-Ireland semi-final last year, and the last 3 minutes or so, it was unbelievable. Meath tried to hold on to the ball in their defence, and Kerry had a the most aggressive press you will ever see. And Meath were going across their own goal, and you're just thinking, like, geez, if this ball slips at all, it's in the back of the net and they're out of the championship. It was fascinating to look at, and it's the same with the kickouts. I do agree with you. I think you need to reward attack and play. You need to reward kind of brave play. And I think this rule is actually promoting the opposite of that.
Yeah, and do you remember I said to you a few weeks back that I think soccer is going to be in a bit of trouble soon because teams are so good at pressing and it's made it so exciting that now we're seeing the likes of Roberto De Zerbi with Brighton being able to break the press. So now teams, like if you saw Arsenal and Man City the other day, two teams who you thought are going to press the life out of each other, meaning turnovers high or teams being able to counter-attack and break the press into space. Both teams ended up having like 4 centre-halves on the field, not pressing each other up high, and ended up as a really intense stalemate. Now, I still enjoyed the game, but I know a lot of people who thought it was awful. And I think that's going to be soccer's problem in the next little while. But anyway, I think it's interesting, and people get your comments in, let us know what you think. Now, here's the other one. So this is the second rule. It's the prohibition on playing a free kick.
I just love the fact that prohibition is the first word, like.
Yeah, that's what we want. So it's of playing a free kick, a sideline kick, or a free kick awarded for a mark backwards between the two 20-metre lines. So basically, that 80-odd metres, we'll say, in the centre of the field, you cannot play a backwards pass from a sideline, a free kick, or from a mark. What do you think of this? Now, what I would say is, ostensibly, seems like a good idea. You have to reward forward play. But if I'm going to foul you, let's say 45 metres from your own goals, what I'm going to do straight away is everyone is going to get goal side of you. And now all of a sudden, the ball has to be hit to some degree forward. It doesn't like laterally, somewhat sideways, but slightly forward. That's fine. But basically, you're just going to cordon an area to trap the team. And at best, what they're going to do is try and find someone, hit it forward, and then it'll come straight back to the kicker. And then it'll just go back to the way it always has been.
It mightn't actually be an advantage to go forward. That's the thing. It might actually be a disadvantage to go forward. So yeah, that's kind of a tricky one because, as you say, I think they can potentially hem you in that way, knowing that you have to go forward. Whereas if you have a free or a mark anywhere else in the pitch, they don't know where you're going to kick it. So there might be just someone just laterally to the side of you, it might be someone behind you, it might be someone in front. You can kick it anywhere. Whereas now, I suppose it probably does take away a bit of the jeopardy in that where the ball has to go. It has to go forward, where any other instance at the moment in hurling or football, like a puck out can go 20 yards over here, it can go 120 yards down there. A kick out can go 10 yards to the side. Same with a line ball, you can go wherever you want. Whereas now you have to go forward. So again, yeah, I do think teams will just sit back, and it mightn't necessarily be as much of an advantage to have a mark or whatever, that you might be actually it might be a disaster trying to go forward. Actually, there might be even less space than they're hoping to create by bringing in the rule.
And let's tease it out though. Why would you go backwards? Okay, because you don't want to hit the ball into numbers, number one. That's fine. You don't want to hit it to somebody who's likely surrounded by people.
Get an overlap as well.
Yeah. So why is going backwards better? Because you always are guaranteed the +1 of the goalkeeper. So would an easier way around this and encourage teams to press you really high up the pitch, which is what would make it exciting, is that you can't pass it to your own goalkeeper when he's inside the 45, we'll say. Something as simple as that. So we like the whole thing where goalkeepers join in open play and they go up the field and they score and all that. But if you can't pass it to him when he's inside his own 45, teams will be like, okay, we can press him high here. And all of a sudden, I think this rule will become unnecessary.
And it will only mean that goalkeepers that are really, really competent and confident on the ball will go to receive the ball, because there's a good bit more jeopardy. If you're taking the ball 13 yards out, there's not really that much danger. If you have to take the ball maybe outside the 45, all of a sudden, if you're turned over, open goal, yeah, I wouldn't be. I don't know if we should be putting a restriction on something like this. Like, you getting a mark is an advantage to you, whereas bringing in this rule, it might actually make it a disadvantage to you. But again, it'd be fascinating to tease it out and look at it and see. Again, you mightn't see it at freshers level. I know yourself is involved, one of the great hurling minds, but at county level, you will see lads looking at, okay, this rule is in place now. How can we get around this, or how can we flip this on its head and make it an advantage to us? Like the water breaks. Like most people were just like, oh yeah, we stop getting water, have a word, and Connacht takes out this tactics board, and Limerick are a reformed team after the break. Everyone will change it and use it in their own way. So it'll be interesting to see what way around it, or what way teams coaches kind of work around this to use it to their advantage a bit more.
And like, is this going to benefit the strong teams or the weak teams? Like in hurling, for example, those rules that have come in, Limerick are unbelievable at stick passing to each other in relative traffic. They never hit stupid stick passes, which become almost 50-50 balls. They know when to play and when to not. They're going to be very good at the brick flick. The likes of, am I right in saying Darragh O'Donovan would?
Yeah, the whole time, yeah.
I don't think it's going to bother them at all. I think they'll only get better. I think it's probably the weaker teams it'll widen the gap with them.
Well, it makes the skill execution a bit more difficult, I would say. So the more skillful teams are probably going to prosper with it a bit more than the weaker teams, I would say.
Yeah. So look, you're going to come out to one of the fresher games with me soon enough, and we'll do a bit of a video chatting about it and hopefully showing some examples on the camera as well. The Tipperary hurling final is on this weekend. The only show in town, as Kean Waldren was rightly saying. Kildangan against Thurles Sarsfields. I think it's going to be a cracking match. And I suppose to tee us up, we might just look at a video here from that I did on Tipcast with Johnny Kelly. So he's been over Nina for the last couple of seasons. And let me just double check which video was. Okay, I'm not entirely sure, but look, I'll play one of them here and hope for the best.
In defence, they like keeping their shape. So, Johnny, from a coach point of view, like Deck McGrath's right wing back and he'll stay there. So, if you're saying Deck is going to pick up Dara Stapleton, Dara might go in left corner forward, he might drop back deep. Like, as a coach, you say, right, you're following him wherever he goes, or are you keeping your shape? That's why I don't think the matchups will be as important on Sunday. I think both defences and both managers like their players keeping their shape. So, as a coach, would you say, right, wherever he goes, you're following him?
It depends on the versatility of the players you have at your disposal, I suppose. Look at it, you know, everyone has different philosophy on coaching and how you set teams up. I think in the modern game, it's important that not just forwards now are versatile, but defenders also. Yes, you can be a cornerback on one day, but you should be comfortable in moving out to a half-back line or indeed area. Obviously, you don't get there'll be certain physical attributes. You can't have certain guys and certain players. But look, if you are to go with that matchup philosophy, I suppose you wouldn't want your players to be able comfortable to play in both the full back line and half back line. So yes, if you were to move with the players, there's always this danger in handoffs. We say if you're handing off a player, and I think again, I go back to Boris Lee Thurles game where Dara Stapleton floated from the half forward line to the half back line. I think it's in that transition, in that handoff, when he was going from Seamus Quirke out to, we'll say, Jerry Kelly, that Boris Lee would have probably lost a bit in that, instead of maybe just going with him for that couple of seconds and then reset in afterwards. So look, it's a difficult one to call. Yeah, you do your best, you get your matchups, you put your players in position, and then if there's a move, sometimes I would say to players, just go with that player for now, and then we'll resolve maybe a few minutes later if we have to readjust ourselves. But you have to trust the players in the field, and if you give them an instruction, it's very hard to go in and take that apart again. I suppose it's one of the dilemmas that faces every coach and manager on the day.
Yeah, Michael, I played the wrong video, but that was a very good one. Gary Toohey of Clubber and Johnny Kelly, of course, former Boris Lee manager, current Nina Éire Óg manager. I'm going to play the other video as well because I think there's some good insight there. I'm pretty sure this is Johnny talking about his Nina team playing against Thurles in Boris Lee a few weeks ago in the preliminary quarter-final.
Like, there's so many different areas you can hurt you with. Like, I mean, I think Sean Butler that day, like, I think he hit 3 or 4 points right at the end. That, like, he was very good all through. But look at the routine that if you push up on Ronan Maher, he sits very deep. Like, and if you push too far off the field, you leave yourself exposed at the back. If you don't, and they'll get out quick ball, he's very accurate. A number of his defenders, as is a number of the other defenders, like, who are really, really confident on the ball and deliver some great ball. They play with great pace. They deliver the ball very accurately, and their forwards are extremely dangerous. I think Dara Stapleton, another one there that's shooting the lights out inside. So on that day in Boris Lee, like, we probably tried to sit back a bit and then try to soak it up, but then push forward in the second half and got really close. I suppose it was only a point in it nearly in the 60th minute. We missed a chance to draw a level, and then subsequently just Thurles it blitzed us in for about the last 2-3 minutes. They got 3 points in the trot. But I'd have to say overall, like, they certainly were the better team in the day, and they have lots of firepower and really can hurt teams, and particularly in Thurles, I suppose. They know the place so well, and those wide expanses suit their forwards. And again, they'll take some mind now on the day.
Yeah, is there any matchup or any area, Gary, that you're interested in for this match?
I think it's a broken record at this stage, Shane. It's Ronan. Like, in fairness to both teams, neither team are a one-man team. That's the best thing about Thurles and Killangen. But then with Thurles, it's Ronan and sitting back, as Johnny said. Like, he's done so much damage all through the year, and it's just, I'm sure, look, Killangen, they know how to win, they know how to get to these games, get to the finals, but I'm sure they'll have someone sitting on Ronan or sitting in front of him, because he's probably this day and age, the sixth role is basically a quarterback role. So he's probably the best six in the country at the moment, in club and county. So I'm sure Killangen will be pushing up in him.
Okay, so a couple of videos there, a lot of insight from both Gary and Johnny Kelly there. What's your first thought? Like, when you're looking at this game now, what comes to mind first? You have yourself muted. You have yourself muted.
I stumbled across this. Did Paddy realise with the title of his autobiography just how much everything would be all on the line and how quickly he'd be all on the line? I think it's a mad one for him, having obviously been forced to retire, how quickly he's gone into management, how seamless enough it seems to be. He's brought Thurles back to county final. He's got them playing probably this is the best Thurles have been playing probably in the last 4 or 5 years, you'd have to say. Maybe even a bit more. They're humming really, really well, despite the fact, obviously, they're missing, himself. They're like a talisman for the last kind of 15 years. He's kind of moved different lads around, a couple of new fellas coming in with the likes of Dara Stakelums. He's probably more rounded kind of senior hurler now. He's given probably Ronan even more responsibility than he's had in previous years. He's really controlling games at centre back, as Gary says there. Now I debate whether he's the best centre back in the country now, but
who's better?
Probably Declan Hannon.
Hey, if you threw Ronan Maher into the Limerick team, how would he go?
Well, he wouldn't be able to strike the ball 100 yards like he does with Tipperary.
So how would he go?
I know he'd go okay. I'm sure he would. I'm sure to be able to utilize his talents there. But obviously he's been lethal for Thurles this year. And I suppose the big question, as the lads were asking there, how are they going to nullify him? Are they going to, like we were talking off air, like do Kildangan push up and take a bit of a risk here and make him have someone around him, make him mark, make him think about something other than getting on the ball, make him think about actually having to defend. Maybe that'll mean that the Thurles will drop even another man back. Maybe Kildangan can hurt him from out the pitch if that is the case, but a lot of thought will have to go into I think it's John O'Mara that's over Kildangan. A lot of thought will have to go into how they're going to work around Ronan or how they're going to occupy him. Obviously Billy Seymour has been playing probably better this year than, like, it's probably his best year so far, I'd say, with Kildangan. He's kind of been a bit hot and cold at times over the last 3 or 4 years. He's fairly hot at the minute. He's been out around the half line. He's been inside as well. They need to, as well as trying to neutralise Ronan, they need to be saying and thinking, how can we maximise what Billy Seymour can do? And listen, Kildangan have the forwards that to really, really hurt Thurles. It's just like Brian Malotny, I think, was sacrificed the last day. He's the sort of lad that could score 1-4 in a county final and got the goal obviously a couple of years ago. So a lot of fascinating little matchups that we might go into.
Yeah, like, okay, so this was part of our chat that when I've seen Thurles so far this year, they've generally had 2v2 at the back line because that's what the opposition are putting up. They're putting 2 forwards inside, and Ronan is sitting more or less right on top of them. And so often the brilliant pressure that the Saras forwards are putting on, which we haven't really seen to this level for a while. Like, Paddy Maher seems to be doing a brilliant job. He's just turned them into a bunch of pigs in a good way. But I wonder, would Kildangan having the confidence of the backline to have, number one, they have a brilliant goalie in Barry Hogan, very seasoned defenders in the full backline in David Sweeney, James Quigley, you've John O'Mara, Fergal Hayes, Alan Flynn, and Joe Gallagher. All very seasoned players there. Decky McGrath might drop into the backs as well or play midfield. But like, you've got an awful lot of players there that you'd think we could trust them. We'll be under pressure. We will give up some scores against this Thurles forward line because there's a lot of lads who can do damage there. Billy McCarthy's like a man reborn this year. Dara Stakelum's playing out of his skin. Aidan McCormack. There's other players as well. Stephen Cahill when he's moved up to the half forward line. But you might think, do you know what? We cannot. Maybe we won't man mark Ronan Maher. But if he's going to drop back as part of that 3v2 in the full back line, we'll have an extra forward up there as well. So maybe we'll go with Sean Hayes, Alan Flynn, Dan O'Mara might be in there. Did I say Alan Flynn? I meant Paul Flynn. Brian McLaughlin, close to goals. Andy Lucknan has been playing there as well. But they might just say, we're going to have enough numbers in there so that if Ronan does win a ball, even if he doesn't have 2 lads on him, he'll at least have 1 lad on him at all times. Because too often he comes out on the front foot and he just because he can puck a ball 30 yards or 100 yards just with a little flick of the wrists, and it's devastating if you're the opposition.
Yeah, there needs to, like, if he does get on ball, fair enough, but there needs to be bodies around him. He can't be looking up like he's been able to do in some games. He's been able to just walk out in some games and do as he likes with ball, and he just can't be allowed to do that. Like, imagine how psychologically how big it would be if Kildangan are able to get a couple of turnovers even off him, or they're even able to force him to over carry or something like that, or get a block in or get a hook in or something like that. But he can't be allowed to dictate. He can't have those couple of seconds that he's had in games so far. And I'd imagine, listen, that's your full forward and your corner forward if Kildangan are playing 2 inside, making sure that they're out there, making sure that they're occupying space. Forget about when you have the ball. If that's, I often say to a forward, like particularly even a corner forward, I actually don't care if you score. I don't care how much of a dog are you going to be, how awkward are you going to make life for their defenders, because all the scores will come out of that. Like, if you're getting your body in, if you're getting it flicks in, if you're getting turnovers, things like that, the scores will happen, the ball will pop out and things like that. But it's probably going to be how hard the Kildangan top 6 and particularly probably the top 2 inside are going to work. Are they going to make those 40, 50 yard dashes back just to cover space, or just to make sure that Ronan can't look up when he's hitting the ball?
I'd like you, if you're being honest, you would look at the younger lads in the Thurles backline who are really good. And I'll give a perfect example. James Armstrong has been very good for underage Tipperary teams in recent years. That's who you'd rather be in the spare man. Even if you're not going to totally man-mark Ronan Maher, always make sure there's an extra body in his area and, force him to beat a man as well before he can go out and do something with the ball. But I think that makes it a fascinating game. Like, Paul Flynn has, do you remember those finals against Loughmore, the 2 finals that we had a couple of years ago, that finished so amazingly. But like, when Loughmore were all over Kildangan, Paul Flynn was the guy pulling points out from under the stand. You were down at that game, weren't you?
That's been a common theme for about 6 or 7 years now, hasn't it? Like, he's a top class club hurler. You'd have to say he regularly chips in with probably 3 to 4 scores in nearly every game. Like, most Kildangan games I've covered, he's ended up with 5 points from play. That's just the way it is, and he's going to be hard to handle again on Sunday. And like, if Kildangan are to win, he's probably going to need to chip in with what he normally chips in, and Billy Seymour's probably going to continue to form. I would expect someone like Brian McLaughlin potentially to catch a bit of fire now, and he's been a big game player before, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he was again.
Yeah, the other end now, like we've talked about what they do with Ronan. So at the other end for Kildangan, Joe Gallagher's played centre back at times. Obviously, it's no big deal for an experienced player like him to go out to the wing or whatever. There are certain matchups that might suit him against Thurles. Billy McCarthy being like a size one. Like, I'm not saying who'll win the battle, but I'm just saying size profile wise anyway, you'd be probably happy enough to say, okay, we'll put Joe on Billy there. That might work out. So then you're wondering, who's Alan Flynn going to pick up? And like, if he's trying to sweep and run the show from 6, would Conor Stapleton like move up there, or would Stephen Cahill try to move up there? Because of course Flynn is going to try and sweep to some degree, but you want someone who'll punish him. And Conor Stapleton is, he's some workhorse these days, but he can hurl at the same time. And then on the inside line, like Dara Stapleton has been playing the sort of form that would certainly have caught the attention of Liam Cahill. Because, and I was saying this to the boys on Tipcast yesterday, I would have thought of him as a wing forward and a midfielder based on watching Thurles and the Tip under-20s in recent times. But all of a sudden now, he looks like a top quality inside forward. They can never have enough of them.
No, definitely not. And like, the fact that he's playing so well is probably keeping Paddy Creedon out of the team as well, probably. And he's obviously going to be a big tool to come in with. Don't know when he'll come in or whether he'll start. I'd probably maybe come in because it's been so successful, and it's nice to have that little kind of joker in the pack coming in off the line. But what a player to potentially be coming in to, hopefully, from a Thurles point of view, push you over the line. Yeah,
then let's call it. I think Thurles are going to win it. I do. And I'll tell you why. Their last 4 games, so in the championship this year, they won the mid, which is fine because, no point dwelling too much on that. But in the championship, first day out against Kildangan in the group stages, obviously repeated this final, or the precursor, I should say. Kildangan had a poor start to the game. Ed McCormick scored a goal, but Kildangan roasted Thurles for the rest of the game. Now, Ronan wasn't playing. You can imagine the knockout and effect that has through the team. But since then, they beat Clonolty, close enough game. But since then, in 3 to 4 games, what Thurles have conceded is 1-11 against Borrisoleigh, 1-12 against Drummond Inch, and 2-12 against Loughmore and dominated these games. The other game, they conceded 123 against Nina in Bursley, and I was at that game. Thurles absolutely dominated the whole game, and they kind of fell asleep and hit a load of wides and let Nina back into it. You give credit there to Nina as well, but they have been dominating teams, and as good as all as Kildangan are, I worry about winning just one of the 4 finals that they've been in recent years, and I wonder could there be, and Thurles haven't won it since 17, but I just feel like they just look like that rude, ignorant animal Thurles at the moment, so that's why I'm going for them.
A miserly defence coming up against the Kildangan side that shot something like 230 in a semi-final. But yeah, listen, the stats would definitely back up to say that Thurles have been a different animal, as you say, in recent times. Something tells me that Kildangan are finally going to get over the line and maybe get rid of some of the memories of the last couple of years. Like 2020 kind of seems like a long time ago in many ways, because they've been beaten in so many kind of finals since, beaten in 2 finals and a replay last year and a semi-final, I think, in 22, wasn't it? I think Kildangan will win after extra time.
Yeah, and actually, great point you made about the scoring that Kildangan have. I pointed out what misers SARS are, but if you go to the group stages all the way on to now, Kildangan have scored, I'm just going to convert goals to points here. They've generally got maybe 2 goals a game, so I'm just going to convert it. They've gotten 29, 28, 25, 28, 36. So they're a team that likes to score. So
and just on that, so Thurles in their last 3 games have probably conceded an average of about, just on what you said on top of my head, probably about 15, 16 points against the team. Yeah, against the team that's scoring like high 20s. So there'll be some sort of probably happy medium there. I expect it to be probably at the end of full time, maybe something like 120 apiece, and I think Kildangan might just see it out in extra time, something like that.
Are we excited for this game? I'd say it's coming across that we are.
Yeah, no, it should be a belter of a game. Yeah, it should be a belter of a game. But I was going to say something. I leave it off. Whoever wins has a great chance, you'd have to say, getting to a Munster final potentially as well. Kildangan must still be kind of bulling over the fact that they never got to represent Tipperary and Munster as well. A lot of wrongs will be righted if Kildangan get the job done, and I think they might just about.
Okay, the Limerick semi-finals are on this weekend. The Pearshig, Kilmallock and Patrickswell, they're 3 of the 4 teams, and they've all won at least 1 title since 2019, the Pearshig with 2. Doon are obviously the outliers when it comes to that, because they've never won a county title. I think they've been in 4 finals and lost them all. And with the talent they've had and the talent they've coming in the next while, they're going to have to make good on this soon enough if they're going to get that county title. But they're up against the Pearshig, and I'll be honest, I can't see the Pearshig not winning this game. They're just a bit like Thurles as well. They look like a team that's got that sort of hard edge to them, and there's no lack of quality across the field.
Yeah, no, I was down in Limerick speaking to Darragh Donovan there a couple of weeks ago, and he was just, to be honest, I think given who they're missing and the likes of Richie English and Josh Ryan, and I think they're all 6 backs missing or something for the first game from last year. Like, he was just genuinely happy that they'd kind of saved their status and even gotten to a semi-final. So, like, I know you never know, you never say like it's actual bonus territory, but given what they're missing, I did get that sense, that kind of vibe. But they still have plenty of talent between Adam English, Darragh Donovan, Pat Ryan as well. Lots of really, really good players. I think this is going to be a bridge too far though. And even though in the Pearshig are probably going to be missing Will O'Donoghue again, they're really seasoned club team. Got themselves back on the map last year with a county title. Shane O'Neill is obviously back involved with them, having brought them to the All-Ireland in 16. And like, when you look at it, like, Ronan Lynch has gone up in attack now, and he's probably their best forward now. Still have Kevin Downs up there, still have Peter Casey flying, Mike Casey obviously in defence, William Hayne. Like, you go down through the names, like, the serious 20 you'd say in the Pearshig have. And yeah, I'd be the same as you. I think this is on the telly on Saturday. Like, I find it very hard to see anything but in the Pearshig win, probably by 6+, I'd say, in the wind-up.
Yeah, ML89 here says Thurles have lost enough Munster finals. Give Kildangan a chance to lose one.
I have to say, like, Thurles, like, I know it's the guts of a decade ago, but that All-Ireland semi-final that they lost to Kilcormac when they were roaring hot favourites. I don't know whether the favourites had got to them or what, but Kilcormac delivered a huge display. Like, Thurles were All-Ireland favourites going into that game, and while that was their sole Munster title as well. Like, and while they have loads of county titles and whatever, I'd say they will still feel that they have underachieved for what they have.
Yeah, I couldn't believe their setup that day, and the fact that they didn't try. I remember there was a small cornerback and a good cornerback for Kilcormac, but they never tried to swap him around to get him into full back and get Lara Corbett maybe on him there, lob in a few high balls.
Alan McConville, yeah, that's right, yeah.
And he played well. Like Alan Tobin says, Verney, sort the hair out. Is there a robin's nest? Are there robin's nesting in there?
I tell you what, I was in the pool this morning with the young one. That was all. So the hair, my hair goes very frizzy from the pool. So that's the reason, unfortunately.
A Sully 180 said, I was on Kilcormac Calahi at 5-1 that day.
Mad, yeah. They were 5-1. Crazy. Should have won the All Ireland. Only John Sexton sent off 2 lads against Thomas's very, very harshly as well.
Very harshly indeed. And Shane Dowling is flying in goals for Napiershik as well. I mean, he's like, and of course the knee injury is the reason that he's playing there rather than still being outfield. But he is a perfect example of someone who was a quality outfield player who you could just see would always smoothly transition to being a goalkeeper.
Noel McGrath, Joe Canning, Bubbles O'Dwyer, Richie Hogan, Owen Kelly. Like, if I was Derek Ling, I'd be no. He has Owen Murphy. If Owen Murphy was near retirement, I'd be getting Richie Hogan potentially to play in the goals for Kilkenny.
As in another year or two, obviously.
Yeah, well, I haven't. I need to look back at closer again, but it did look like it was either Dean Mason and TJ or TJ that blocked that Andy Gaffney free at the very end of the Dixborough game.
I think it was TJ.
And there were many times, I remember when the penalty used to be 3 on the line. I think Richie and TJ were the 2 that were with Owen Murphy before on the line as well.
Final.
Yeah, so maybe in time they won't be able to get rid of TJ. They'll have him in the goals.
Yeah, wasn't it? How many penalties did Kilkenny give away between the 2 games of 2014 final? Was it 3 penalties that they rugby tackled Tipperary? You know, lovely little Tipperary.
But anyway. You'd be if that was Tipperary doing it, you'd be encouraging it.
Yeah, no, they did the right thing based on the rules. Kilmallock against Patrickswell in the other one. I think everyone's expecting this to be a really tight game. Like, even if Keane Lynch, Aaron Glen and Diarmuid Burns all catch fire, is it fair to say that Kilmallock have the more even team? They have the greater spread of threats?
Yeah, probably a bit more rounded, you'd have to say. I presume you've seen as much of the Limerick Championship as I have, and just every game I look at, I'm thinking Shane O'Brien is going to be some weapon next year and the year after and the year after that. Like, I'm just thinking, like, just say 20, 25, 26, him and Galan, potentially 2-man inside with Peter Casey coming out, and I'm just thinking these boys could cause absolute wreck.
You're retiring Seamus Flanagan fierce early there.
Yeah. I wasn't retiring anyone, but he'll be some weapon and some option to have in there as well. The Kilmallock Well game outside of Dixborough and Ballyhale was probably the best club game I've seen this year. And Patrickswell were still beaten in that game, weren't they? In the wind-up, as good as it was, and as good as Lynch played, and as good as Gillan played, and as Burns missed the penalty, didn't he? At the end, he sliced the penalty to win it. I kind of just have a sneaking suspicion that the Well might get it done by a score, but I do agree with you. I think Kilmallock, the Balbec as they're called, they're a better rounded team, a more balanced team overall. And Graham Mulcahy, who's probably been written off for a couple of years now, still looks in as good a form as ever at club level. So he won't be going anywhere at county for a while, I'd say, yet.
Yeah, okay, the Cork final is on this weekend. Sarsfield's against Middleton.
Just Shane, quickly, can we circle back to John Kiley and Caroline Bird when we're talking about Limerick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just quickly, I'll just fly through the bit of news there. So obviously it was confirmed that John Kiley has been given a 1-year extension in charge of Limerick, the longest serving manager of one county across both codes. It is Kiley's 3rd but shortest extension since taking the reins in September 2016. In 2019, he received an additional 2 years and was given a similar mandate in 21. Kiley is expected to be assisted. No, he's definitely been assisted by Kinnerk, Alan Cunningham, Angus O'Brien and Donal O'Grady again. However, Caroline Curd will not be on board next season. Now, just first things first, the 1-year extension, would you read much into that?
No, I wouldn't really. Like, didn't we see this before with other, we've seen this before with other managers.
Brian Cody was 1 year at the end of every year. It was for a long time.
But John Kiley's in a situation whereby he can leave whenever he wants. Now, it could be a situation like, you know, Brian Cody went last 7 or 8 years without winning it. Mickey Hart or whatever went 8 or 9 years, maybe even 10 was it with Tyrone. And at that stage, people start agitating for a bit of change or whatever. But for the next 5 or 6 years, even if Limerick never won an All-Ireland, which of course they will, you know, he'll be able to call time whenever he wants. So he can say 1 year every single year. And the people that are sweating are those trying to keep him there. He doesn't have to sweat.
Yeah, true. Yeah, very true. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure.
Have you heard talk that maybe Shane O'Neill might be lined up as the next man? He's obviously over in the Piercing this year.
And was obviously the Galway manager. Call a spade, and I've good time for Shane. He did great work in the Piercing. Galway probably didn't work out as well as he would have expected or as he would have liked. Bursley probably didn't as well. So, like, I was kind of thinking before we started, like, is there a really obvious replacement for Kylie? Like, really obvious one? I don't think there is, and I probably don't see it coming from within his own backroom team, not straight away anyway. Connacht has said several times he's not going to step up as manager.
But I'd be surprised if it wasn't someone from within the current Limerick GA setup, as in under 20 or minor or something like that. I don't see it being someone who's totally outside the Limerick system at the moment, because the trouble there is it upsetting the apple cart, the system we have that works?
Yeah, they've obviously changed. Dowling's the new minor manager, and obviously they've a new under-20 manager as well. But I don't think there's anyone really obvious. Maybe you could say that Kylie wasn't that obvious, but I would have said he was after winning the under-21 in 2015. Shane, off the top of my head, I can't think of it. The manager of the Limerick under-21s in 2017, was it Pat Donnelly?
Could have been. It was. Yeah, and it was Diarmuid Mullins earlier this year. He left. I'm trying to think who's after being appointed in the meantime.
Yeah, but who was the manager in 2017? You might just check. It'd be interesting to see if they're still in the system as well. I have a feeling it might have been Pat Donnelly who was over the minors. I could be wrong, but I don't think there's a really obvious candidate within the system. Yeah, I don't think there's a really, really obvious as a replacement. Kylie kind of said earlier this year that, you know, it won't go on forever, or maybe it won't be that much longer that he'll be manager. But, like, would you really walk away in the next 3 or 4 years, providing everything is okay outside of hurling, while you have this crew that could go and do things that nobody has ever done? Saying that, Jim Gavin left Dublin after 5 in a row. That maybe Kylie will do the same. I don't know, but I'd be surprised if he did.
Yeah, so actually, Evan Loftus, he's up to the under-20s. He was the previous minor manager as well. So just to clarify that point. Leo O'Connor, actually, I had messaged him to come on the show today, but the message never delivered. So he's obviously busy today. But
he's busy planning his future Limerick management team.
If the comments here are to go by. But, like, Limerick, come on, okay, you've proved your point. You've won a load of titles. Grand, you're the best, whatever. Grow up. Move on. Stop winning everything. Really, for God's sake.
What do you think of Caroline Curd not being involved? Just because I'd say the facts of it here really quickly. So obviously she's involved in 18, which was the biggest, like, bridge to get over, like the 45-year bridge or whatever. She wasn't involved in 2019. I think they had Tony O'Brien that year. That was the last time they were betting a knockout championship game. She came back in 20 to 1, 21, 22, 23. So, and she's obviously very well thought of there. But just to go back even to her history a bit more, the Tyrone win in 08, the Tipperary win in 10, which was, you know, ending a drive for 5, the Dublin win in 11, which was ending a massive famine. Like, I don't exactly know what she brings to the table, but it's obviously pretty powerful stuff. But you'd hope, like, from a Limerick point of view at this stage, that they're nearly on autopilot, or that they're nearly armed with all the tools that they need to operate without maybe having the crutch to lean on. I don't know if they'll get somebody else in now, but I'd imagine things would go on pretty seamlessly. In 19, when they were beaten, you know, they just won the All-Ireland the year before. They were playing brilliant stuff outside of the first 20 minutes of the All-Ireland semi-final. But, like, 20, 21, 22, 23, look at all that they've gone through since. Maybe they don't need that type of a role as much as they did maybe in 20 or 21, or even earlier on this year. Maybe they're more armed to kind of go through it themselves. What do you think? Do you think it'll be much of a loss?
Well, you know, it's a bit like the performance coach. It can be a bit vague at times, and, you know, like, you'll always hear when a team wins, they'll say how vital that person whose role is so undefined is. You know, so I think it can be important if you've got a team that's psychologically a little bit behind or whatever, or certain players need to be told, reminded how good they are or whatever. You know, you hear that famous one Enda McNulty just showed and Brian O'Driscoll videos of himself when he's playing at his best, and that helped him get back to his best form. Certainly Brian O'Driscoll was pointing to that. And I do think it can be helpful to a certain amount of players at a certain time. Is it more important than what Paul Kinnerk is bringing? Can they go on without, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to do down, you know, her role, but I just wonder, is this as important as something like that? I don't know. I mean, look at Kean O'Neill, right? So he was involved with Tipperary winning All-Irelands, and that was more, I think, as an S&C sort of situation back then. He was involved with Kerry, so he was more of a coach at that stage and possibly a selector at that stage as well. He was there helping Mayo do good stuff, obviously helping Galway get to an All-Ireland final in recent times as well. So there'd be more of something that is very tangible in terms of like, oh, you can see his fingerprints in how they play.
Yeah.
So to me, there can be importance placed on all of these different roles, but what's the stuff that's really kind of helping row the boat here? So I don't know. I'm not doing it down, but there are times when I'm unconvinced by this stuff.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. Like the head coach or the main kind of coach, like Kinnerk would be potentially a loss a bridge that you just might be able to get over, like, because no matter who they bring in or who steps up, by all accounts from anything I've seen or heard, and even from talking to him, it seems like it's a different level, and that's every night. That's everything they do on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? That's every bit of contact. Whereas Curran's work is kind of more behind the scenes, and you'd like to think like the Dubs got to the stage where all that was done in-house. Kevin McMenamin actually did most of the sports. I think that's a remarkable part of the Dublin kind of machine, that they actually trusted a player to do it. And even at times he wasn't even starting, obviously. But they obviously got to the level where they thought they could do it in-house. Maybe Limerick are at that level as well. It'd be interesting to see if they do bring in a direct replacement for her. Speaking of replacements, I thought it was interesting. I don't know if you saw Colin Boyle having a bit of a cut on the Mayo Football podcast about Joe Canny coming in, who's obviously from Corofin. I kind of have to agree with some of the points he made. So Joe Canny is replacing Liam McHale in Mayo, and Mayo already have Donny Buckley, Stephen Rochford, and Damien Mulligan. So they have three like really good coaches. Rochford's a former inter-county manager. Buckley's done, you know, unbelievable things with several different counties, and you obviously have Damien Mulligan in there as well. Boyle was questioning whether they needed another coach, number one, and number two, he just said, why are we bringing a Galway person into the Mayo setup? Why do we need to look outside the county? And he kind of just said, maybe it's because I'm from the border region or in around the borders. I just don't like seeing a Galway person coming in. I have to say, that's not usually the thing that's said now. You know, people usually don't say that type of thing now. They just accept whatever. So I have to say, and I do think Boyle's a very good pundit, and he kind of speaks it as he says it. He says it as he thinks it. And he also said that he thought, why are we bringing someone in from Galway that's ultimately using Mayo as a stepping stone to get involved with the Galway setup? So what were your own thoughts on that? Boyle is probably saying what a good few people are thinking.
And I like that he's saying it, that he's not worried about any fallout or whatever. And I'm not even sure what fallout there would be. And he said, I just feel like if we're going for a younger up-and-coming coach, why not look inside our own county? All right, so would it be fair to say that to a Mayo person, Galway would be, you know, what a Kilkenny, you know, what Kilkenny is to me? Who's your most bitter rivals at this stage?
I just hate Tipperary generally, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't care about you, but you know, you hate us. And it's different, though, because you're used to outside managers maybe coming in. And I think that is a real factor to consider here. But as far as I'm concerned, a Kilkenny person coming into the Tipperary setup, I'd probably feel the same way. Or, you know, yeah, maybe Clare as well. Yeah, maybe slightly Clare from a certain generation.
I think you said before, if Davy Fitz managed Tipperary, you'd stop supporting Tipperary.
Yeah, and that's nothing against Davy per se. It's just that generation when I grew up disliking that whole Clare cohort. You know, initially you liked them, and then you're like, all right, go away now.
Yeah.
That traditionalist mindset. But yeah, I'd agree with Colin Boyle. Surely in a football mad county where we should have brilliant football people across the board, why go to our bitterest rivals? Yeah, I'd agree with him there. What do you think?
I would agree with you. And also, it does get the sense of Liam McHale was there last year. He basically thought that he wasn't been listened to or had different opinions than everybody else. I would have thought they'd be like, okay, maybe too many cooks can spoil the broth here, and we'll stay with what we have, which is a really, really top-class coaching ticket. But they've also added another coach in as well, which could get potentially messy again. Like me and you said it here when the various Mayo tickets were announced, like who was going for the job. And we said, Donny Buckley, Stephen Rocher, Kevin McStay, Lee McHale, Damien Mulligan. Geez, that's an unbelievable backroom team. But it's also, with due respect to everybody, like it's also like there's lots of different personalities and egos in a setup as well. And that's not having a go at anyone, but you're just wondering, like, again, they're adding another kind of person into it. I don't know if there's a need to, and it's definitely something that will be analysed closely in Mayo if things don't go well.
And just in terms of coming back to sports psychologists, if you've got a good backroom team full of people that you respect, you would hope that, and there's obviously going to be exceptions, and maybe you like if there's an exceptional case where you know somebody needs a little bit of help, that you sort of just try and find someone very suitable for them outside your camp if you don't feel your camp is going to be able to address the issue. But surely if you're picking a management team, and I pick you and Kean Waldren, who was on the show earlier, and whoever else, you would hope that the emotional intelligence between the lot of us would be able to sort of tick the box with a lot of players over the course of a year. Now, there's no one saying we'd be infallible, and you would try and bring in people, if it was necessary. But you would think that you'd pick a management team that can get as many players, if not all players, and players will always be unhappy because everyone wants to play, that you'd be able to cover off a lot of that.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you. And I think that's why most management teams, you're usually trying to pick guys. Just say you have, let's just say that you bring 50% to the table, shall we say. You cover this, this, and this. You're trying to get someone that covers 20% of something else. And you're trying to get someone that covers 20 and then 10, and then you're hoping that most kind of boxes are covered. I think that's why you need kind of different personalities within a setup. Like there's always, within a management team, there's always one lad who really cares. Do you know what I mean? Like, and there has to be, who's having those conversations with players, who's taking calls. Like a lot of the time it could be players upset with the manager over X, Y, and Z that he did. And this selector or whatever is the sounding board to maybe get a message back across to the manager that he's been unfair in certain regards. But you usually try and tick boxes in that way to make sure that you're covering everything off, basically, and there's not the chances of something falling through the cracks with players and different things that are going to happen are less likely, I suppose.
And you know what? The other thing is, if there isn't at least some player unhappy, you're probably not doing things right either as a manager.
There has to be. There has to be a couple of players. Has to be a couple of players unhappy, yeah.
And if you have a panel of, we'll just pick 25, if there isn't at least 3 or 4 players who aren't absolutely furious, well, at least somewhat put out that they're not getting the chance that they feel they deserve, they're probably not even players you want. You want everyone who you have there, you want them absolutely trying to their last, preparing to their last, and they're not happy sitting on the bench. We've all been in dressing rooms where you know there's a few lads that are just happy there to go through the motions, be part of the setup. But realistically, do they really, really want to start? You don't know.
Just on that as well is that you want some lads that are unhappy at not playing, but you also want them to feel like they are being treated fairly and getting fairness. And it's like, okay, you're not playing today because we think Johnny brings this to the table. That's not to say that you won't start the next day, but like when you're not starting lads and you're not having any conversation with them and you're not keeping them in the loop or anything like that, that's when you start to lose lads.
Yeah. Okay. So the Cork hurling final is on this weekend. Sarsfields are against Middleton. So neither team got out of their group last year. If you go back, I think it was 10 years ago now, in the final when Middleton beat Sarsfields, Conor Lehane had that unbelievable day. He scored 10, all but 5 of his team's tally in total, 2-8 of it coming from play. So he had a day of days that time. Sarsfields, for their part, they've seen off 3 of the last 4 county champions, Finbarr's Blackrock and Inmakilly, to reach their first final in 8 years. And I was reading a piece in the Cork Echo, and it was with their captain, who's Conor O'Sullivan. And people might have remembered him, part of that brilliant run that Cork had to the All-Ireland final in 2013.
Played sweeper a lot, didn't he?
Yeah, and he was really good at it. I thought an excellent player. But he was talking about his role as captain, and he's actually, so I think he had an injury that kept him out for the guts of 12 weeks before the championship, and he hasn't been able to get his place back since. But he was talking about the role of being a captain and how he just doesn't take it lightly. And I'd love people to comment in, how many players do they know at club level or county that are captain but they're not starting? And he goes, it's unbelievable. It's the biggest honour I've ever had. I absolutely love SARS. The club means so much to me. The boys are my best friends. Craig Leahy, Will Carney, Daniel Carney are the godfathers to my 3 children. Owen, my brother, is there. I've been friends with Roachy, i.e. Daniel Roach, since I was 10 or 12. Even the younger fellas, you'd be close to them too. I've an unbelievable love and affection for SARS. Now, I've no doubt, but like he's 34, so you can imagine he's still in great shape to be starting a final like this. but like he will be hopping out of his skin to be involved in this game. But you know, those words, that he hasn't minced them, has he?
No, he definitely hasn't. I was actually captain of Borough, not starting 10 years ago when we got to a county final. Got a stress fracture halfway through the season. Was going fine up until that point. And I rang Johnny Pilkington to tell him, and he was like, "Oh Jesus, right, okay." And the phone call finished about a minute later, and he rang me back 5 minutes later to say, "All right, Verney, you're an unofficial selector for the rest of the year." And I was like, "All right, Johnny." So it was great. I was training on the sideline, but doing bits and pieces with lads and doing whatever. Stayed heavily involved. Was able to kind of stay fit. Got back for the county final. I came on at half time. Broke my leg after 15 minutes. And I didn't realise it at the time, obviously. But I didn't come off, actually. I just went in corner forward. I was still I knew there was something wrong, but I was still actually moving okay. And then obviously I realised after I went to the hospital the following morning. But that was kind of how I dealt with being a captain and not playing. There's still a hell of a lot you can do, and I'm sure Conor O'Sullivan's going to have a big play in where the title goes on Sunday. And another kind of part to it as well is that, you know, Sarsfields would love nothing more than to honour Teddy McCarthy, who passed away earlier on this year. And I just saw an interview on the Cork Echo with his brother Dennis, and he just said, "I suppose what's to be said about the great man will be done in the dressing room, and in their own right, I know the players will want to win it in Teddy's honour, but importantly, I think the club needs to win it." So Sarsfields would feel over the last decade that they have underachieved. They're back where they want to be now, and that's going to be a tough final to call now. Obviously, Lahan is the one we talk about from a Middleton point of view, but Conor Bossang has been brilliant as well. Like savage, he's been playing even better than ever probably this year for Middleton, and they beat the Bars in the semi-final. I thought the Bars would win the whole thing out, and I'd probably just give Middleton a tentative nod, I'd say, on Sunday.
Yeah, just we might as well mention this. Eamon O'Shea has been confirmed that he's going to Galway, and that Henry Shefflin has added an extra year to the end of 2025, if I have it correctly. And Derek Ling has been confirmed to stay on for next year with Kilkenny. I don't think it's any surprise about either of those things, really. But at this stage, because the Eamon O'Shea thing had been talked about for so long, yeah, it's happening now. And I'm not sure if we've anything further to say about it. We've kind of talked it up and down. But Ling to stay on, no surprise.
No, I actually thought it was funny that they even announced he was staying on. Sure, they offered him, didn't they give him 2 or 3 years? And it was just like, then when they released a statement, I'm like, oh, okay, there must be a little change to the backroom team or the management team. And the backroom team is the exact same. It's Michael Rice, Peter Barry, Conor Phelan, I think, and Peter O'Donovan. I was like, oh, there's surely another name been added, but there's not. So I didn't think they needed to. It's not like when Brian Cody had a 1-year extension and they announced every October or November that he was back or whatever. So I thought it was even peculiar that they made an announcement at all, to be honest.
Cracky Ash says, if ever a move spooked the county, it's how Tip feels seeing O'Shea going to Galway. Well, it remains to be seen. There's the Senior A Hurling Championship semi-final replay in Cork taking place this weekend. So that's the second tier, despite the name suggesting this would surely be the top tier. But no, of course, Cork have to be different. Bride Rovers have to play Blarney. So a replay was ordered because Bride Rovers, for a period of time, and this is similar to Kilmacud Crokes against the Glen in the All-Ireland final last year, there was a period of play where there was a 16th man on the field. Someone had been brought on, a player didn't come off. The game ended up being decided on penalties, which Bride Rovers won. Blarney have put in an appeal, lodged an objection, and that game's going ahead this weekend. There could be skin and hair flying.
There definitely will be. The fact that it finished on kind of penalties kind of nearly makes me happy that they're playing again. And someone's actually going to win the game for real this time.
Nah. No. Right, so the Galway semi-finals, they're on this weekend. I mean, talk about, like, there's so many unbelievable games on this weekend.
This is probably the best weekend, I would say, that we've had so far. Like, particularly as regards hurling, there's a couple of unbelievable games that are probably going to go under the radar. We'll do our best to put them on top of the radar, obviously, between today and Monday. But there's so many good hurling games this weekend.
Yeah, so Turlough against Loughrea, Sarsfields against St. Thomas's. So Turlough, like, there's this little bit of a feeling that I sometimes get without being, kind of on the ground there in Galway, that Turlough, they were the common team for so long, and have they kind of missed their chance already?
Like this, I wouldn't say. I probably would have thought they would have made a breakthrough by now, even in 2020 in that final. maybe if Dottie Burke hadn't picked up an injury, maybe they would have been even closer. Remember, he ended up being taken off, and he had an ankle injury going into it. He ended up being taken off and going back on full forward. He's playing centre back at the minute. Sean Lennon has had his probably best year, particularly with County coming back into the club as well. Like, it's kind of an awful draw for both Turlock and Loughrea. Someone could go out by a point, and like, this could be the year to take Thomas's down if they were to get to a final or whatever. It's going to be very little between these 2020 finalists against last year's finalists, Loughrea. I just have a sneaking suspicion that Loughrea haven't regressed from what I've seen anyway, haven't regressed from last year, and they came unbelievably close to taking down Thomas's, and I think they might just squeak over the line. But like, would you be surprised if it was like? I wouldn't be that surprised if Thomas's were beaten this weekend either. Like, because I think there's only a puck of the ball probably between them and Sarsfields. Like, you'd probably be a brave enough man to call the Galway final at this stage. It could easily be Turlock and Sarsfields. It could easily be Loughrea and Thomas's. It could easily be Loughrea and Sarsfields. It could easily be Turlock and Thomas's. I don't expect much in either of those two games.
Yeah, to be fair to Turlock Moore, they only won an under-20 title there, I think, 3 or 4 weeks ago. So they obviously have more players coming as well. And they do have Dahi Burke, they have Conor Walsh, they have some fine players in there. But I don't know, I think just, like, if you're going to beat St. Thomas, it's almost like you're going to have to beat them by 6 or 7 points, because if it's going to be tight going down the last, you just fear for the opposition that the experience of this Thomas's team is going to get them over the line. Like the Coonies and so on and so forth. They've been there and done it so many times. And like Sarsfields have been there and they have won it. Remember, they won that county title and lost to, who was it in the semi-final? Was it whoever the Antrim? Cushandall. Yeah, you just wonder, like, yeah, have they enough? Like, Loughrea are certainly the team that look like they're closest to coming. And I'm sure they're so frustrated from last year. But you know, sometimes when you get really close and then the next year you think maybe we'll get over the line next year, or you almost kind of feel it's going to happen and then it doesn't. So I don't know, like, this is a big banana skin for them.
Sometimes you can play like a couple of points less than you played the year before, and things can open up for you. You can win a county title. You can be like Loughrea could be better than they were last year and potentially still not win the county final. That's just the kind of way it is at the minute. As regards Sarsfields and Thomas's, I think Kevin Cooney scored 2-11 the last day. They obviously had a huge win over, was it Ormore Marie in the quarter final. He was very good with Galway throughout the year. He's going to have a big game again. I don't know. I wonder would Joseph Cooney potentially track Conor Cooney? Like, Conor Cooney's form with Galway has been patchy in the last couple of years, but his form with Thomas is like he routinely hits 4 or 5 from play nearly every game. And Victor Manzo, who was only a bit part player maybe a couple of years ago, he's starting now and chipping in with 3 or 4 points in most games. Still wouldn't expect to see David Burke back yet. Maybe might appear for a county final. I think there'll be very, very little in that. I think Thomas's will just come through, but I think there'll be very little in it. And I think Loughrea might just about come through the other one, and we have a repeat of last year. Yeah,
Thomas's, I'd say, will be so frustrated with how things went in the All-Ireland semi-final against Dunloy earlier in the year. They'd love to get back and put that right as far as they'd seen it. I think Kevin Cooney's going to be a huge player here also. Portumna, I believe, are in a relegation playoff this weekend. Johnny Kelly kind of mentioned it in passing in the tipcast, but we didn't really get into it, so that's something else to keep an eye out for. So the Offaly final is on this weekend at St. Brendan's Park, the home of Offaly hurling, so say you. Kilcormac Calahi against Shinrone. You're going to see the flags flying of one of these two teams afterwards. Which team would you least like to see win?
Stop, will you? I often said when the county finals were in Tullamore, like, and you're not in them, like, the best thing that can happen is somehow this game never gets played or something happens. And it just, but it's going to be a massive occasion. The only way I could get to the game was to work for it, so I'm down there working. Mondays on the field around 2:00, and I think things will be. It's a massive weekend. We've kind of a historical talk about Sean Robbins, who the cup is named after. Great Burman, former chairman of tonight. That's tomorrow night. Then there's a big celebration of the 95 and 98 All-Ireland winning team tomorrow. Who's in town? Anthony Daly, Dave Clark, Dignan, Joe Dooley, Gary O'Kane from Dunloy, many, many more. That's going to be a great night as well. And then it all leads up to the game, and expecting in the vicinity of around 8,000. And I think the game will live up to the occasion as well. You obviously have Kilcormac, who, like, Kilcormac were beaten by Shinrone in last year's final, but people forget they probably left behind about 3-5 in the space of about 10 minutes in the first half, that game could have been over and they could have been completely out of sight. So they have the bit between their teeth coming into this one. They've repositioned Killian Kiley at centre back. He hit a couple of huge points in the second half the last day. They obviously have Adam Screeney playing his first county final. Imagine, like, he's had an unbelievable year. If you look down through the honours, Leinster minor, under 20 Leinster minor, colleges Leinster B, All Ireland B, colleges Leinster A, and he could have a county whatever minor titles, under 20 club titles, and he could have a county title at the end of it. Who Shinrone put on him, I don't know if it'll be Darren Crane or maybe Darren Maher might pick him up either. They're going to have to kind of keep him quiet. Like the last scenario Shinrone wants is for Screening to be lighting it up and getting 1-4 or something like that and getting on a heap of ball. I think this is going to be really tight. Being honest with you, I think it's going to be very, very tight. And I have a sneaking suspicion that Shinrone might do back to back. And I thought they were written off for some unknown reason going into the semi-final. I couldn't understand it. I still probably don't think they're getting their due credit for winning the county title. I know they were very, very poor against Naas in that Leinster game last year, but they've been really good in Offaly this year, apart from maybe the last 10 minutes against Ballymere in the group game. They've done everything you would expect of champions, and they have that know-how and knack of winning now that they didn't have last year. And yeah, I think they might just about get the job done in a very, very tight, kind of attritional, tough kind of final. But I think they might just about get the job done.
Yeah, I saw Adam Screeney doing an interview this week with one of the local papers. I'd cite the paper, I just can't remember off the top of my head, but he was
Midland Tribune, I think, yeah.
Okay, so he was more nervous actually togging out for Kilcormac seniors than he was for the under-20s, despite the huge occasions they had, you know, like playing in those big finals. But maybe he was, like, I think he said something about being used to what those games were like with Offaly by the time they came to a final, whereas maybe it was slightly different lining out for the seniors this year.
Interesting one here as well, Shane. Nobody involved would have played in a county final in St Brendan's Park before. So none of the players involved would have ever played in a senior county final. The last one was 06, obviously.
The moon, like.
What's that?
It's not like they're playing up on the moon here.
No, true, but they wouldn't be. Shinrone would be a lot more used to playing in it than Kilcormac would. It's probably equidistant from the two of them. I'd say it's probably bang in the middle as well. It suits perfect for the two of them. Yeah, I just really looking forward to it. Expecting a brilliant occasion and expecting a tight game. There'll be no runaway winners or anything like that. Yeah, I think Shinrone might just get the job done.
And I'd say the bookies have Kilcormac as more than warm favourites, 4-11, I should say. Shinrone are 5-2, 3-point handicap there. So maybe that insider knowledge you have, there's a few quid for you to make there. The Dublin semi-finals are on this weekend as well. We lost Michael there for just a second.
Should have been more than our favourites going into the semi-final, and they weren't. Yeah, I wouldn't put anyone off that. I'll put it to you that way.
Okay, so the Dublin hurling semi-finals are on this weekend. St. Vincent's against Ballyboden St. Enda's, Lucan Sarsfields against Nafina. So they're two games that I wouldn't be able to call with any massive degree of confidence, but we'll get into them more. But are you favouring one side or the other here in either game?
No, well, you know kind of what I think about Boden as regards when they get to this stage and how hard beaten they are and how kind of seasoned they are. But I've just liked anything I've saw about Vincent's this year, and obviously Pat Gilroy is involved. They just seem to be, I don't know, it's simple to say that they're more united this year, but they just seem to be all singing off the same hymn sheet a bit more this year. And I just think they're dangerous. I think they're really, really dangerous. Lucan and Nafina, like Nafina have, you could half say that they have the monkey off their back beating Crokes, but they don't really. Like beating Crokes has set them up for a semi-final where they could be without Conor McHugh. They're already without Donald Burke. The damage of that quarter-final win could be felt here, and they're coming up against a bruising Lucan side, and there's no point in saying any different. Like Lucan and Boden are two seriously physical teams, and Lucan obviously managed by Kilkenny legend Charlie Carter. With no confidence could I call either of these, and that's just being honest with you, because I something, you know, when you kind of have that feeling in the pit of your stomach saying, I just think something's going to happen with Vincent this year, and even the fact that the footballers are out, I kind of think it mightn't even be a bad thing either. The one or two lads that were focused, or maybe playing the two of them, are just focusing on the hurling now. I find it very, very hard to call either. You obviously have maybe more of an insight, and you would have been, you would have seen plenty of games here. What are you thinking? What do you think the final pairing will be?
funny enough, like I'd be similar enough to you. Really hard to call, and it's almost like, you know, sometimes the more you see of these teams, it's almost like the less you know, or the less you're able to call it, because you're just focusing on so many mini details. You're struggling to take that helicopter view to be like, okay, I think broadly speaking, X team will win, or Y
I think that's
team
a U2 song, isn't it? The more you see, the less you know. The more you find out as you go.
Right. Okay. But look, let's kind of pare it down here in terms of like, who do Na Fianna have in attack here that can do damage? And you look at AJ Murphy scoring, what was it, 3-4 or something like that the last day out. He was really good. You've got Sean Curry up there. You've got his brother Colin Curry, who's really good. You've got Liam Rush back in there. Shane Barrett, who was very good for Dublin there for a few years. He's in the team also. Sean Baxter's a player I always like. They've got a very good goalie in Jonathan Tracy. But at the other side, I think Dara Perry's in goals for Lucan. They've got so many quality players here. They don't have Chris Crummy, which I suppose in some ways Donald Burke isn't there. Neither is Chris Crummy. Both teams are missing, you know, probably their talisman, their leader. But like Lucan have been so good this year, and they came top of the group that you know, I was involved in. I saw them the first day out. Was it the first? It's actually hard to remember the order of the games, but they were very good. Yeah, it was the first day out against Kilmacud Crokes, and Crokes definitely were down a few of their key players. I think a few lads were away. They bullied Coola. I thought they were Coola were, you know, looking okay for a while, but then Lucan just took over the game. And there's a couple of players who I thought really stood out to me. Paul Crummy would be one of them. They have a lot of nice little tasty forwards. I think that there is probably scope for Na Fianna's pace to cause them a little bit of trouble in the half back line. Got Matt McCaffrey and Johnny McCaffrey who might be in there. And I think there's probably that bit of pace there that Na Fianna have that could do them a bit of bother. Now, the other semi-final, Pat Gilroy's taken over. I believe he kind of exited early in the year, came back in then, and the commitment went through the roof. He's got Ryan McBride, spelt Ryan, but pronounced Ryan McBride, back in. They just look like a serious team across the board. But Ballyboden were brilliant against Coola also. And who stood out for me that day? Paul Ryan did. He got 1-2 from play. He'll always knock over his frees. Such a huge thing to have in your team there. Luke McDwyer, I like his pace. Kevin Desmond, I like how direct he is. Niall McMorrow, bit of a little magician as well. So there's two quality teams here. And I didn't really talk about John Heatherton being that sort of game breaker. I think it was a hat-trick he scored last year against Crokes in the quarterfinal. Certainly two, maybe a hat-trick. So I'd probably just edge for Vincent's in that game. And the other one is such a toss of a coin. Probably the more consistent team for me all year has been Lucan. So I'm going to go with a Vincent's Lucan final.
Okay. I find it very, very hard to call either of them.
And the more I said, the less you're known as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to be honest with you, I wouldn't be like. I might have said the Galway semi-final pairings could lead to any sort of a final, but Dublin is multiplied by about 10. You could have any sort of a final pairing here, and that's the great thing for the 4 teams involved. That with Crokes gone now, they all really think they have a realistic chance to win the county title. And that's great. I'd love to see the betting here. I'd say you could throw a blanket over the 4 of them.
Yeah. So the Kildare final is on this weekend. Quail Dove against Naas. Do you have some details on that for us?
Yeah, Naas are going for 5 in a row. Tom Mullally is still juggling Carlow and Naas, and I don't blame him either, because you see how close Naas were last year, even to beating Ballyhale. He obviously sees the potential that's there. They're obviously still going for the double in football as well. So I think Brian Byrne might be the only one. He plays fullback for the footballers, and he's obviously from midfield up for the hurlers as well. They're going for 5 in a row.
Not playing, no?
I don't know, is he playing football this year? I'm not actually. He could be. Byrne was the one I noticed on the team sheet anyway. He could well be. They're roaring hot favourites here. Quite Love haven't won it since 2015, and it just looks like it's Naas's title for as long as they want it to be. Given given the star power they have available to them, like they usually take up between anything 4 to 5 of the Kildare starting 6 forwards would be Naas. And they're really the game winners. That's throwing Brian Byrne, Simon Lacey, Reem Bourne, a couple of his younger brothers as well into it as well. Just find them they're going to be very, very hard beaten there.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the next county championship we were going to talk about was Wicklow, and of course, the Verneys would be a strong name in Wicklow. So you know this scene well.
They would actually be around Wicklow town.
The other day.
Yeah, to be fair, they would be around Wicklow town. This is Bray against Carnew. it's kind of similar to the Kildare final. Bray have been the dominant force in Wicklow. They've won 7 of the last 10, including the last 4, going for 5 in a row. You look at the spine of the Wicklow team, and you're looking at Andy Kavanagh, John Henderson, Christy Morehouse, David McCormick, and they're obviously the spine of the Bray team as well. So they're obviously reigning Leinster Intermediate champions too, and they're facing off against Carnew, who are top of the Roll of Honour with 19 titles, but haven't won it since 2009. And it'd be a fair departure to say they're going to do it here. Bray just are so seasoned at this level now, and I'm sure they'll fancy going on a run in the province again, and find it very hard to see them beaten. And county finals in a lot of counties this weekend in hurling as well. Kildare against Ratoath in Meath as well.
You know Ratoath well, don't you? You're not living too far away.
Yeah, Ratoath is only around the corner for me. I was actually in there walking on Monday night, and the Owl stand was absolutely hopping after the county final. Lads, a lot of lads drowning their sorrows, I'd say, after the football final. A lot of the same personnel playing between the football and the hurling. So, like, how would you deal with that as manager? Like, after losing the football, you kind of just let them at it Sunday and maybe Monday, would you?
Is it different management teams?
I think it's different management teams. I'd probably let them at Sunday and Monday, because I don't know, losing the county final is very, very difficult. I'd probably just let them off as long as they're compos mentis by 6 o'clock Tuesday morning. I'd say that's okay.
It is a tough one. So the game's on Sunday at least. So
yeah,
if it was on Saturday, you might be a little bit more concerned. I'd say you probably have to let them get out of their systems so that they're not coming, to training then on Tuesday, almost being annoyed that they weren't allowed to go off the rails. At least if they go Monday and Sunday, come into Tuesday being like, okay, I think we've had our fun at this stage. Let's get back down to basics. And it wouldn't be that tough of a session for any of the dual players.
I don't even drink, but I know that you have to let lads get a certain amount out of their system after something like that. You just have to, because you feel like robbed and cheated the fact that you've lost, and you would feel robbed and cheated the fact that, oh, we're not out tonight, or we're not, you know what I mean? Like, I think you just have to let it go, and they'll be happier lads. They mightn't be in great shape, but by Wednesday morning they'll be probably 100% and ready to go.
Okay, the Armagh finals on as well. Cagelaw of Jarrick against Middletown. Middletown have won 7 of the last 8, and they're going for 5 in a row. They've beaten Keady in the last 2 finals by 8 points in 2021 and by 4 points last year. So they'll be heavy favourites here. The football then, the Tuam Stars.
Just quick one, Shane. Just the London hurling finals this weekend as well. Robert Emmets and Brother Pearce's. So Robert Emmets beat Gabriel's, the reigning champions, after penalties in the last 4. And the Pearces booked their place in the county final after beating Thomas McCurtain to 323 to 314. Kind of half mentioned this before in the show. So Dottie Heffernan, son of former Limerick star Pat Heffernan, scored 8 points from centre back for the Pearces, and his brother Fionn scored 1-1 a corner forward. Remember we talked earlier on the year, Pat went over to London for the weekend and got the transfer to Brother Pearson so he could line out with his sons earlier on this year. It was a great story, and I'm sure Pat will be over this weekend for the final. Would probably have Emmett's marginal favourites. Would probably have the marginal favourites, but if the two Heffernans perform, Brother Pearson will be hard beaten.
John O'Kinnan says, hurling go to the week this week. Michael Verney, serious display of supporting / coaching / hawkeyeing from the terrace in the town end of St. Brendan's Park. River Power asks Ratoath, I see Emerald Park in your future, Verney. The child will have you beating a pat there.
About 2 minutes over that way. About 2 minutes, I'd say. I still call it Tato Park though, because that's what the original was.
Have we a quiz coming today? We haven't even talked about it, so hopefully Dara has a quiz coming, and we'll bring him on shortly if he does. But we'll talk a little bit about the football. Is there? I suppose we'll start off in Tyrone. So there's some big ones this weekend. You might start us out.
Yep, in Tyrone this weekend we have the semi-finals this weekend. Obviously, it's Dungannon Thomas Clark's against Trillick. Trillick have gone really well despite the fact that Matty Donnelly has been out, and even to get back to a semi-final in his absence. We have some quotes here from Dungannon's Chris Rafferty. He just said on Trillick, they will want to reverse the last championship game that we played against them in the first round. So we'd be very conscious of that, and it's going to be incredibly challenging. I'd watched them against Eden Dark, and what was a very good game in very difficult circumstances. Trillick are a very seasoned team. They have a number of very powerful and talented individuals that are well versed in dealing with championship games. I think their record is 6 semi-finals in the last 9 years. And then the other semi-final, you have Errigal Kieran. obviously spearheaded by the Canavans and Peter Hart against Ardbo, O'Donovan Rasta. Ergo Kieran are actually one of the favourites even for the Ulster Championship and are high up in the odds for the All-Ireland at this stage. This is obviously the most cutthroat championship in the country with it being knockout. Like, it feels like it only started last week and it's nearly over. Like, we'll know the finalists by Sunday evening.
Yeah, the Fermanagh semi-finals are on. Derry Gonley Harps are against Kinawley, Brian Barrows, and it's
great name, by the way.
It is. Like, again, we keep coming back to what are the best club names in Ireland, and that's a rare enough one. There can't be too many Brian Barrows. I feel like there's one in Camogie or maybe ladies football somewhere along the lines.
Yeah, not something I've come across too often now. It's a great name though. Yeah, great name.
Yeah. So the other semi-final then, Enniskillen Gales against Erne Gales Bleak. The Mayo semi-finals, Bravey against Castlebar Mitchells and Ballina Stephenites against Knockmore. Knockmore won 2 in a row there a couple of years back. But, you know, for Bravey, and Aidan O'Shea is flying, his brother Connor is flying as well. Because they've lost so many finals, there was probably a sense that their time was passing or whatever. But I'd say, like, after all the pain the likes of, you know, Aidan has gone through with finals or whatever, just be brilliant for him to finally get that county title on the board this year.
Shane, you've talked to various county fellas as well. Like, particularly with the amount of pain that he's had in finals with club and county, I'd say it would top any achievement, and it would be something that he'd dine out on for a long, long time if they were able to get over the line.
Lost 4 finals. Yeah.
And they've obviously lost Rob Henley as well, which doesn't help. But they beat Westport last day, I think, by 2 points. It was 1-8 to 9. Tough assignment against Castlebar, obviously, driven by Paddy Durkin. Difficult game to call. The Stephenites, Pádraig O'Hora probably the main man in defence against Knockmore. Kevin McLaughlin's retired, obviously, from Mayo, but still driving Knockmore forward there. They were going for 3 in a row last year. Westport ended up champions, and I'm sure Knockmore would think there's a bit more in the tank as well.
Yeah, okay. The Clare final is on this weekend in the football. St. Breckens are in their first final in 27 years, looking for their first county title. That's up against the Cratloe team, who you know, they know how to get over the line, they know how to win.
Managed by Colm Collins as well, obviously.
Who's harm having a county manager there.
Hey, yeah, who's been doing the whole way, for as far as I know, he was Cratloe manager before he took over Clare, and I think he just stayed as Cratloe manager the whole way through. He's actually, and I might as well say it here now as well while we're on it, I think Colm is one of the main kind of speakers or coaches at Stephen Poacher's coaching clinic in a couple of weeks' time up in the college up in Newry. You know what I mean? He has about 300 or 400 people going to it every year. Colm is one of the kind of keynote people at it, but that's going to be a fascinating final. Brecken's in the first final in 27 years against a Cratloe side to have a couple of titles in the last decade or that.
Yeah, okay. The Kerry quarterfinals are on this weekend. Rathmore will meet Spa. East Kerry, they'll be expected to dismiss St. Kieran's fairly easily enough. Dingle will meet Temple No, and Mid Kerry are up against Nagale. So that'll actually be a tasty run of quarters.
Can I just ask you, do you not think it's a bit mad? Like, we were all talking about Fossa about a month ago, and they haven't played their final yet. It's like they qualify for a final, and then they go and play the county championship. And when that's over, then they'll come back and play the intermediate final. Do you not think that's bizarre?
Well, like, how are they supposed to train collectively? And I'm trying to remember, who are they against in the final?
They beat Stacks, beat Castle Island Desmond's the quarterfinal. I'm trying to rule out teams here. I can't remember. But do you not think that's a bizarre scenario? Like,
yeah, no, I think.
Why would they not just play it all off and let them go off and play for their divisional sides? Then I just think it's a mad one. I've never heard it like it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out who they're playing. Milltown Castlemaine, that's who they're against in the final. It definitely is, because, like, obviously you won't see too much of the Cliffords. Well, maybe they will be partly training with both teams.
Haven't played for East Kerry yet, I don't think.
They both came on in the last game.
On last day. Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's a very awkward one for them, because obviously they'd like to win both games, but of course they can't be training for both teams throughout. Okay, we're going to do the Thursday quiz. So we're joined now by Dara O'Flynn, who regularly joins us, gets the hair fixed up nicely, just in time there, Dara.
Just in time, yeah. Jeez, caught me at a bad time. So literally, I was going doing this last week, but Shane was absent, so all stars. So I'm just going to do same as hot potato, kind of Shane go first, Verney go second. So we're going to start off with the 2009 All-Stars team.
This is good. This is good. I like this.
PJ Ryan.
Yep, Verney.
2009 Hurling All-Stars.
Surely we need a clock here. This is ridiculous.
Jackie Tyrne.
Yeah, Shane Bond.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Tommy Walsh because he was Hurler of the Year.
I have no bonus point now for that, but
Lara Corbett.
I forgot to put on the music for our quiz. We're supposed to.
You're all right. No, leave it off. Leave it off. That
it was
music
distracting the last time.
I'm going to just turn it down a little lower as well. We need something to add to the vibe. Who did you say? Lara Corbett?
Yeah, can I just say, I think it's okay if you repeat a name, because I just thought if you silly.
No, because
That's
you laughed
your
at me a
memory.
few times in earlier editions of this. Okay, I'm going to go with Christ Almighty. This is a tough one. Henry Shefflin.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. I don't think I should say him. JJ Delaney.
Incorrect.
No way.
So
I was going to say
you
Owen
have-
Larkin and Derek Ling. Were they in there?
Nope. So you
Neither
had
Yeah,
nine.
quickly read out that team, Dara.
So you have Ollie Canning, Paddy Maher, the Brick Welsh, Conor Mahoney, Michael Rice, Alan McCrabb, Henry Shefflin said, and Owen Larkin, Joe Canning, Noel McGrath, and John Milan.
Jay
There you
Shano,
go.
I tell you something now. I wouldn't have got too many more of them.
No, I just think I was lucky that you got it wrong before me because one of us was about to be wrong. Go ahead, Dara.
Right, so the next one we'll go into is the 2015 All-Stars.
2000.
I'm starting, am I?
Football
Yeah.
or hurling?
Hurling. We'll do all hurling today. Football next week.
2015. Joey Holden.
David Burke.
TJ Reid.
Joe Canning.
Level. Wasn't on a Shane.
Wow. Okay. Well, go through the 2015.
You left out your man, Shemi Canlon. I can't believe it.
Yeah. All right. So I'll just name the full 15. So you have Colin Cannon, Paul Murphy, Joey Holden, Noel Connors. Then you have Dahi Burke, Tyg de Burka, Killian Buckley, Michael Fennelly, David Burke, Cathal Mannion, Richie Hogan, TJ Reid, Ger Aylward, Calnan, Mar Shanahan. Then Finn's full lineup. Mar Shanahan, last fella.
Yeah, Jenny Mack. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not simple. There's a lot of obscure ones.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead again.
Here we go.
Last one. So I'll do 2020 All-Stars. Hurling.
So who's going first?
Jane's first.
Me first. So that was the Winter All Ireland. Stephen Bennett.
Yeah.
Stephen O'Keefe.
Shane, yeah, you're one for once. You're after winning. Verney's after having a stinker.
He did. Stephen O'Keefe didn't get the All-Star after the double save in the All-Ireland final.
No, I'll tell you what the full team here now. It's Nicky Quaid in goals. You've Sean Finn, Dan Morrissey, Dahi Burke, Dermot Burns, Tyg de Burka, Kyle Hayes, my own clubman Jamie Byrne, Tony Kelly, Grode Hegarty, Keane Lynch, Tom Morrissey, Glen, TJ Reid, and Stephen Bennett.
And interestingly, neither of us even tried for a Limerick lad at the start when.
And that's ridiculous.
So I say it's about 3-1 to Verney in the series now, but
Oh no!
finally-
Surely I've won one before. No?
I think it's 2-2 actually.
Is that? Jeez,
I think it could be. Yeah, I think it could be.
Okay, well, Darren, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be doing it again next week.
No, that's a lot.
Cheers, Dara. We're going to have to get better, Shana.
Oh, we're both absolutely cat. I don't know how we're after getting so bad. A couple more county championships to just tie up. We've got Sean O'Leary's Newbridge against O'Donovan Rossa. That's in the Derry Senior Championship semi-final. Glen against Slaughtneil. Now, Glen won 112 to 7 points when they met last year. So Slaughtneil will surely be out for blood here. But like Glen have such power across the board there, such quality that I think that's going to be a real toss of a coin game.
Belter of a game, and obviously Glen are on a revenge mission or a redemption mission. Surely, like in the back of their minds, they're thinking, let's hope Crokes keep winning, and let's hope we get them again at some stage down the line. Let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah, the Down football final that's on this weekend, Burn against Kilcoo. So Burn manager Jim McCurry, he's hoping that Oran Murdoch, that he's fit for the final. He's over in Australia, currently taking part in the AFL Combine. Kilcoo, obviously, they've been here and done that many, many times over the years. So, like what we've seen a couple of times recently in Down football, there tends to be some tasty little fixtures, skin and hair flying. We could easily see some incidents in this match.
Yeah, even it was in a league final last year, it got pretty tasty. And it got very tasty the last day. And obviously we saw that crack in Monaghan as well, which was, it wasn't hectic either. It just seems to be really prevalent up there for whatever reason. The games are very, very tetchy, very, very tense, and it seems to lead to these type of incidents.
Yeah, I might let you go through Laois and Waterford there, just to read out the fixtures.
Yeah, it's St. Joseph's against Portlaoise. I think Portlaoise are going for their 36th title, I think, against the St. Joseph's side who took down the 4-in-a-row chasing Port Harrington in the semi-final. St. Joseph's managed by Mick Dempsey, and Waterford Senior Football Championship quarter-finals, Rathcormac against Clashmore, Kinsale Beg, Galtier, who have Desi Hutchinson playing for them, I think, against the Nair, Balnacorty against Onreen, and Bricky Rangers against Kilrossendy. And in the Waterford relegation final in football, you have Stradbally, home of the great Michael Brick Walsh, against Portlaw. And Stradbally are 19 times champions, and they're in serious relegation trouble. Last won the championship in 2017, and this is the first year, I believe, without the Brick.
Yeah, okay. You've gone through the full of them. Okay, so the Longford football final is on this weekend. Killow, or Emmett Oak Killow, I should say, against Clongish. So in the league earlier this year, Killow comfortably beat Clongish, but they were without the county players. In the championship then, Clongish turned the tables and won by 3, but I suppose they were missing players in both games, both teams, so how much can you read into it? It's a case of probably experience, like almost all of Killow's players have at least 1 or 2 championships under their belt, whereas, with Mickey Quinn, Mark Hughes, Daniel Mimna and the McGoldrick brothers looking for a 6th title. Clongish, on the other hand, they're aiming for their first title since 2009, with Darren Quinn, Joe O'Brien and David Barden involved back then. Clongish are coming force. They annihilated all before them to win under 14, 16 and minor for the 2nd year in a row. And it was their 3rd minor in a row and 4th under 16 in a row. So Jack Duggan, son of Roscommon legend Derek, he's the man who makes them tick, and he's on form, points sailing over from all angles. Killow can't afford to foul, as minor Matthew Carey is a lethal free taker. And then you have 41-year-old David Barden proving a very effective target man at full forward. Overall, maybe Killow are the more experienced, balanced team and likely to shade it thanks to, those players who we've mentioned going for their 6th title. Strong bench as well with Ronan McGoldrick. He came on in both the quarterfinal and semi-final to score 3 points and 1-1 when they really needed it. And they also have the option of bringing in towering midfielder Simon Kiernan, who hasn't fully, who's not featured, and minor star Paddy Moore, who struggled with an injury too. They could also be sprung. So you might take us on to Wexford.
Yeah, no, I tell you what, just a couple of quick notes on Longford. I'm going to have to let you go then, because there's a baby looking for a bottle here. But there's a 27-year-old chairman in Clongish, Ronan Sweeney, trying to win a title on the pitch, along with 29-year-old secretary Jerry Moore, who's playing full back. So it's a bit of a mad one, like where you have a chairman of that age and a secretary of that age both playing. And then you mentioned David Barden, so he's 41, playing the full forward line, flanked by Michael Flynn and Matthew Carey, who he has the combined age of about 35 between them, so he has 6 years on them combined. So the bit of experience, I'm sure, teaching the 2 young lads. Shane, I'm going to have to let you go at this venture, all right?
All right, take her handy.
Take her handy.
Good luck.
Talk to you.
Okay. Epic of a show today, lads, says Traumspieler, longer than Ben Hur. And Crack of the Ash says Nicky Brennan would probably dominate the 2 lads in these quizzes. Probably would, is fair. Then the Wexford final, so Castletown against Shelmaliers. Owen O'Gara, he's back and he's playing quite well for Shelmaliers. He was very good against Kilnairn in the semi-final. So I think we've covered plenty on the show today. The final comment there. No, sorry, I had already read that one out. So that's pretty much it from the show today. If you want to get the audio podcast, go to patreon.com/OurGame. If you're looking for us to do a live club fundraiser, why don't you email us at events@ourgame.ie. Also, if you're looking for a coaching clinic, we can bring one of those to town for you. But other than that, that's it for the show, and we'll see you again next Monday. Don't forget to subscribe to all the different social channels because it helps build up our game. Thank you very much.